We are now.
Yeah, we are on and caught Amy halfway through that.
I
Welcome
didn't know we were
to.
on yet. Sorry.
We literally just came on live now, so nobody caught you midway through the Zamboni or whatever you were just channeling behind. So that's fine. Welcome to another episode of Friday Night Live. Today we're talking about a few different things, VA claims, C&Ps, some questions, some amazing things that some of the folks that we know have been doing. But before all of that, my name is GP. I am blessed to be with some amazing peoples. Brian, over to you and then Amy.
Yeah, thanks, DP. Yeah, Brian Lofton, disabled Army vet as well. Yeah, glad to be here, and great to see Jerry's been able to join us. I know that he's tried to get onto the show with us for the past couple of weeks to at least be in the audience, and
Mm-hmm.
so now we got him back. So welcome, Jerry. Good to have you back. Good to be here with you
Jerry is in the
guys.
house. What did Jerry say? I realized that I know and have email addresses for over 1,000 veterans. So basically, Jerry is out there now pounding some pavement and like, hey, tune on in. Um,
Man, Jerry.
Amazing. Let's see. Over to you, Amy.
What's up, guys? Happy
Oh,
Friday. Here's the microphone, DP, so you
There it
don't
is.
miss it.
there's the
Like I looked down, I
Yes, here
lost
it
it.
is.
Jesus Christ.
I know. You almost missed it. You missed the quickness. I'm Amy. I'm a disabled Air Force veteran of 11 years, and I am currently in Colorado Springs and happy to be here with you guys tonight.
Awesome. We got Willie in the house. Willie ask you, Army 69 to 71. Thank you for your service, my
all
brother.
right. Well,
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Today we're kind of going exclusive on YouTube, so I'm sure some of the folks that may have not caught us on the Facebooks or whatnot may be like, "What's going on? How do we find y'all?" So hopefully they saw the link that was posted. So kind of coming back from a hiatus, we got Justina in the house. Hey, Justina.
Justina.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So let me tell you about Justina.
Uh oh.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy she joined. So, Justina, she will probably tell a little bit about her story, but I've been working with her for a year. She had a PTSD MST claim that was going to be tough. It had been, I believe it was over, I know 20 years, it might have even been 30 years. And we worked really hard on getting her markers, getting some statements, and it's been a wild ride for her. She wanted to give up a time or two. Um, the VA did this weird thing where they messed up. They did a C&P, and then apparently too many people complained about that C&P examiner, and so they had to do another C&P, and it 22 years. So they had to do another C&P, and she was not happy about it because obviously reliving that trauma. It was a very difficult situation, and she called me 2 days ago and she said that I think I was rated 70%. And today she received her back pay for her intent to file. Yes. So
Hey,
a true testament to hanging in there. She's going to go for that 100%. She did her intent to file already. She is a very strong woman and had a lot of obstacles against her during this year. She lost her mom to COVID,
mm-hmm.
and just a lot of different things that made her want to say like, okay, I cannot go through this anymore. And her situation was a very unique situation to try to prove. Um, um, and a lot of people would tell her it was going to be impossible. And many of her family members told her she was crazy and she wouldn't get approved and she needed to stop, all of the things. So she had no support system except us here at VACI. So huge shout out to her for her tenacity and continuing. And it's a true testament to it's not an instant gratification, but if you stick with it and you do what you need to do, and she did everything she needed to do, and there she is, 70%.
That is amazing.
That is
Yes,
awesome.
Congratulations to
yes,
Justina. Um,
yes.
Elliot saying howdy and semper fi to you,
What's
my
up?
fellow Marine.
What's
It
up?
is.
Actually,
Awesome. And we're gonna get
I believe
into.
she was a Marine.
Yep, yeah, she did. She
I
did
do
put
she
that
was
down
a
as well.
Marine.
Yep,
Yeah.
Marine Corps,
Yep. Yep.
96 to 99. So semper fi to you.
Yep.
We
Yep.
got Paul in the house, and we're gonna circle back around some of the points you just mentioned, which I think are good to talk about.
Hey, Paul.
Paul's in the house. Thank you for your
What's
service.
up, Paul?
22 years short. He is U.S. Air Force, so there's one for you.
Yay, Air Force.
Yeah.
Can I get the horn? Can I get the horn, DP?
That might be the right one.
Whoops. Sorry for that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
U.S. Air Force is in the house.
Welcome, Paul.
We got Roger Fuller in the house.
Roger. What's up, Roger?
All right.
He is in the house. Let's see. Justina said, it's very real, my ex-husband, to the story you shared with her
Yes.
journey.
So I didn't want to go into detail, but it was
Mm-hmm.
actually a situation while she was married, and it was a very tough one to prove. But sometimes when you go to the doctor and some things just don't seem right, you can use those as markers. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, very, very tough situation. She has some kids. It was tough. It was a really tough situation for her. So my hat's off to her for sticking with it, going through it, and finally
Being
she was
able
able to
to
do that.
be victorious.
And I also
That's
had
awesome.
another client this week, a male client, a male MST client. I know that you guys have heard me say this many times, but I have more male clients than I do female clients, surprisingly. I had a male client that we've been waiting to pull the trigger since June, and he just has not been ready. He has not been ready. He has not been ready, and it's been really tough. He wouldn't talk to anybody but me. Great guy, but very tough. Um, very, very tragic story, and just knew that sometimes people feel like the VA is against you and like people are watching you or they're out to get you, or somebody that maybe did something to you, maybe works in the VA now or whatever. And it had been about 30 years, and he also was rated 70%.
Yeah.
So,
So let's just jump into some of the subject at hand. But before we do that, a few more folks have popped in. We have Jesse coming at us all the way from
the
Jamaica currently.
yes,
So she's literally
Wow.
probably in the pool right now with a
wow.
Bahama Mama or some kind of Mai Tai. And probably somewhere not too far is this other gentleman here next.
Uh,
So he's over there
Well,
having a few drinks.
supporting
I was
us.
going to
That's
say after
awesome.
that, I think Jesse had posted a picture on Instagram. I
Hmm.
didn't know if we were going to start calling her the Bird Lady or something.
Yeah, I'll tell you, she got up there, sang, did some amazing things. Uh,
That girl can sing.
Jack of all trades.
I I was amazed. I love it. I love watching their journey. They're having a great time, and it's awesome. They're well deserved, well deserved. So it's been
Yeah,
fun watching them in Jamaica. Goals. They swim with the dolphins. That's my goal.
yeah. I heard they're far in
Swim
your
with
face too.
the dolphins.
Uh,
Wow.
um, let's see. So, a few things to kind of set the stage for some of the things that we'll talk about today. We're going to specifically talk about claims. And one of the things I think would be interesting is we're going to do some basic information, and answer some questions. So there may be some folks watching who are in the process of filing a claim. There may be folks that are in the process of being called into the VA, right? So breaking it all down, if you're a veteran and if you are someone who served and may have incurred any kind of disability in some shape, fashion, or form, there's a few things that I think need to be kind of established, right? You may have the ability, that's the operative word, you have the ability to file for a claim if something that happened during service is still aggravating you, right? So, for example, part of the rationale behind this goes down to the CFR. If we go to the actual law itself, and this governs who can file for a disability, what are the details of said disability, how does all that work um, to be able to file your claim. Let's put Amy here next to me so she's not taking up all the space for this. But this is, you can Google it, you can find it. If you don't know the law, you're not going to be able to really have a good argument for anything. And this goes over all the policies when it comes to functional impairment, avoiding pyramiding. But basically, ultimately, the biggest thing I want to make sure that we understand is that all of this stems from the law here. We talk about bilateral, we can talk about a variety of different things, but understanding that this is how evaluations are put together, then you begin to understand how the VA is going to rate something. So let's say, for example, we're looking at something respiratory here. How do they rate a respiratory condition? Well, here we go, right? Consider something along this line: sinusitis, right? Allergic rhinitis, bronchitis. Let's say you have asthma, whatever. They're going to look at what are those specific things that you're dealing with, and at how does that marry up with said disability, and the percentage next to it. So if you don't know what these things are, for example, here, let's look at the very bottom one that many people know about, right? It's sleep apnea. And we've talked about it many a
Mhm.
times. If you're a few pounds over, you incurred some stuff or have some respiratory things, you may have sleep apnea. And maybe the VA gave you a CPAP machine. The two things to understand is the VA has different sections. There's the VHA, the BVA. When you're making a claim for a disability, it's the BVA. When you're making a claim for medical services or care or CPAP, that's VHA. That's the Veterans Health Administration. Look at those three numbers at the bottom. If you have persistent daytime hypersomnolence related to sleep apnea, that's 30% rating. If, however, you require breathing assistance such as continuous airway pressure, aka CPAP machine, 50%. If you have chronic failure with carbon dioxide retention and whatnot, and will require a tracheotomy, 100%. So there's different levels to this game that you have to be able to articulate. So if you have a CPAP machine, the operative word here is required use of this machine. I don't care about the medication. I don't care about anything else. You have a diagnosis. You have this machine now. Now you're making a disability claim. So this, can be applied to a variety of things. But the biggest thing I wanted to focus on here is no matter what exactly it is you're claiming, all of this stems from the law. All of this comes from here. So no matter what it is you're specifically looking at, whether it be a mental health condition, again, same thing here, right? What's your mental health rating? What's your PTSD rating? All of this is in the law, and having this conversation helps to better set the stage of where you may be, because maybe your symptoms are not at the 10, maybe they're the 30, maybe they're 50. It depends on where your life is at and what's going on. But the biggest takeaway here is that this all factors into the law and how these things are considered. And up here, you'll see, again, do a quick search of Title 38, Chapter 1, Part 4, ECFR. You'll see essential things to evaluate, the higher of two evaluations. There's a lot of things that we can do on YouTube. We have a lot of these different sections put in here. So if you look around, you'll find that. One I'll give you, for example, is this. If you talk about, hey, Brian, you know what? I'm not going to talk about, my symptoms because I don't have all the symptoms at this level for my mental health. It says here that they're
Yep.
the ones that are going to apply the rating for one or the other. So part of the rationale for me saying this or showing this here is that they're going to apply the higher of two levels, which means this. If you're a veteran, do me a favor, be a veteran. Stop trying to be a doctor because you're not. Stop trying to be a rater because you're not.
Yep.
You're not the examiner. You're not the rater. You're the veteran. Stay in that lane. Let the rater rate, let the evaluator evaluate, and let the veteran tell a story. Because sometimes many veterans begin to talk themselves out of a rating thinking, well, I don't have this, and when I Google that, stop it. The University of Google.com is not helping you here at all. So, let's just set that stage there. So I wanted to just show that because I think it's important to kind of set the stage. But now, with that being said and done, if you are a veteran and you have a legitimate argument to make to the VA, it's not because, oh, this side, Brian, right, did this job in the military. If you notice below, all I ever ask is what's your branch of service and when did you serve? That is all that matters. It does not matter that Brian was infantry. It doesn't matter that Amy was dental or Air Force. If a trauma, something happened and you have a claim to make, you have the ability to make that claim. It's not because of what your job was. It's not because of what you did. It's because of what is lingering after that. Because guess what? Everyone watching this, if you served, you did your time and you got paid on the first and the 15th. So guess what? The military doesn't owe you anything. If you're making a disability claim, you're saying that because of what happened in service, Now these injuries, these conditions now have morphed to a situation where it's disabling to me. So when you say something like, well, can I file for this? Well, is it disabling? 'Cause I'm telling you right now, if I walk over to Brian and break his knee and he loses the ability to walk for a period of time, you don't have to ask Brian, say, hey, is that missing broken leg disabling to you? Yeah, right? Is
Yep.
that chronic PTSD anxiety that doesn't let you go to the corner store or check your mail disabling? Yeah. Is that ingrown toenail disabling? I don't know. You tell me. But be realistic to what we're arguing here, right? Because sometimes some folks get really stuck on some of these small value claims, and if you don't understand the impact on your life, that's a different conversation. So to frame it, you have to have a diagnosis. You have to have an in-service incident, right? How did this service connect this thing? How did this happen? How did it exacerbate it, right? And having a current disability that goes beyond that. So just because you have sleep apnea, you don't have a disability. Just because you have anxiety, you don't have a disability. Just because you have IBS, you don't have a disability. Having a medical condition is not a disability until the symptoms rise to that level. I'll say that again. Anxiety, PTSD, migraines, sleep apnea doesn't automatically give you anything until you can show that the symptoms have risen to a level that's disabling in your social, occupational life. So that's the basic juncture there. You're entitled to be able to go to the VA, file a claim if you have something that is disabling today, and you can say, you know what, I did fall off that truck, I did get hurt by that thing, I was exposed to this, I was exposed to this trauma, this thing happened, that thing happened, and because of that, over time, now I'm dealing with this. I still have migraines. Started in service. I thought it was going to go away, but guess what? Now it's to the point where I can't even leave the house. Or I have anxiety because of this. Or I have this condition or that condition. Or maybe you were exposed to something like Agent Orange or we're in the Gulf War, what have you. Those things now are causing things. So you can have something that directly happened in service. You can have a presumption to something you were exposed to. I'm a 9/11 responder. I was also around burn pits. I have respiratory issues. Those are things that I have to deal with. So that's something that's presumed because of my service, or if you're a Vietnam veteran, you were exposed to certain things. Now all of a sudden you have, let's say, diabetes or certain things. That may be a connection. And then you have secondaries, and the secondaries are things that are pretty much saying, hey, because of this condition, right? Because of this primary, now I have a secondary. Example, I have a horrible left knee and it keeps giving out, and that's making me shift my weight to my right side, which in turn now is exacerbating my right side, and now that knee is taking a toll, so I'm gonna file a secondary claim. The service didn't cause that right knee. The left knee was caused by service when I fell off that truck and hurt myself. Now, because of the weight shift, the right knee is acting up. So in turn, now I am going to file a claim saying because of the left, now the right, right? Because of that situation, I may have put on some weight. Because guess what? Everybody watching this, if you're a veteran, you know how to lose weight. Point blank. Everybody knows the secret, right? You eat somewhat decent, you get up early, you do some push-ups, sit-ups, and you run. We all did it. We all passed boot camp. And guess what? We may want to do it, but the way Brian's back is set up, the way his knees are set up, the way Amy's situation is set up, the things that we're dealing with, your depression, anxiety, it may have caused weight gain. And maybe that weight gain in turn is caused sleep apnea. It's caused diabetes. It's caused another situation. And that's the argument you're making. So there's different ways to formulate an argument, but the reality is, what is it that you're dealing with? And it's not saying, hey, grab for the stars. No, if you're entitled to something, make the argument, right? But you have to understand how to make the argument. But the reality is that not everybody has to reach a certain number. One thing you'll never hear anyone say that I don't support is, well, if Brian has, this rating, I should have it too. Put it in context. Because Brian, I'm not saying he does, but let's just put it in context. Because Brian has um, diabetes, I should have it too. Because Amy has a cancer, I should have it worse. Think about that. Amy has debilitating migraines, I should get that too. I'm sorry, what? No one has ever said, man, you got drop foot and you can't move your leg? Shit, I wish I had that. What? If you truly have a disability and you truly cannot leave your house and you truly are dealing with something, I guarantee you anyone dealing with anything will give back any sums of money to have full ability to do whatever they can do in life. I would give my left foot, my right foot, what doesn't work, to not have to deal with all this apparatus, take all this medications, and not have to deal with all these different things and all these triggers. And I'm not dismissing someone's condition. What I'm saying rather is that let's put it in context. It's not a comparison that, oh, Brian got this. You don't know what Brian deals with. You don't know what Amy deals with. Focus on your claim, what you're dealing with, because that's the key here. So that's, in a nutshell, when you look at a VA claim, it's different than everything else, but you have the ability to file said claim. And if you choose to do so, make sure that you understand the rationale of how you're going to get there. All right. So if you filed, it doesn't matter how long you've been out. We've worked with clients and veterans who've served as far back as the Korean War, and they were able to successfully file said claim because the time frame just makes it harder over time to file the claim. But the reality is, it just means that you have to have some details in there. So there's no like, oh, you got out and you can't automatically file for this. Incorrect. That's not how that works. So those are some things just for the frame set there. If you filed your claim and now let's say the VA is calling you in, then you have to be very versed in what we talked about, the CFR of your symptoms. How do you articulate how your mental health, how your migraines, how your fill in the blank is affecting you, and how you can show that conversation come C&P time. So that's kind of a broad kind of, generalization there just to begin to talk about it because we really haven't talked about that a lot. But I'll kick it over to Brian, Amy. If you have questions about any of this stuff, whether you filed a claim, are thinking of filing a claim, or have filed a claim, or have something coming up, feel free to pop your question. We'll answer it. If you're watching us in a replay, feel free to go ahead and pop the question with a Q. We'll go ahead and look at it and answer it as well and get back to you. You don't have to put pertinent details, so we won't bring up your situation. So if you ask a question, don't worry, I'm not going to bring it up. I'll read it out, and I'll keep you anonymous, so you don't have to actually have your stuff, brought up on a screen there. Brian, over to you.
Yeah, no, awesome. And I'll just reiterate on the 38 CFR Part 4. Whenever you're considering whether to file, one of the things that I recommend you do is, like DP said, go out and Google it, 38 CFR Part 4. You will see the listing of all of the rateable codes, the rateable conditions, and you'll see the rating criterias and what rating percentages are associated with each set of symptoms. And it's important that if you're wondering whether you should be filing, because let's say that you have something that's bothering you, it is debilitating. You may not know whether it's something, even though you feel like it could be related to the service, you may not know whether it is something the VA will even rate. And I'll use obesity as an example. To DP's point, many of us are not quite as fit as we used to be.
Nimble.
I say many of us. Yeah.
It's called tactical girth.
But, and we may have gained all that weight because of our knees, our feet, our back, our mental health. The reality is that obesity is not a rateable condition per se, but, and this is where some additional support beyond just the 38 CFR Part 4, obesity can still be a gateway, a stepping stone, if you will, to from the condition that is rated by the VA to what is being aggravated by the obesity. So kind of took a little bit of a tangent, but just using an example of, you'll get a list of what is rateable by the VA. You'll see all the symptoms that the VA is considering or looking at whenever they're evaluating your claim on said disability. And it's important that you understand what those symptoms are because, quite frankly, mental health rates from 0 to 100%, and there are 31 mental health symptoms, I believe, in all. Well, I can tell you, going into it for the first time, particularly if you've never talked to anybody, you don't know what all the symptoms are. Even if you're dealing with stuff, you may not connect what's going on in your life with symptoms that are associated. So informing yourself of what the symptoms are will help inform you. Number one, are you dealing with something that the VA will even consider? And are you dealing with symptoms that you didn't even necessarily realize you were dealing with that are part of a rateable condition. And being able to speak to those things and tell your story about how those are impairing you, either occupationally or socially, in some cases. Other cases are not impairment wise. I mean, sleep apnea is you either have it or you don't, type of thing. But it's very important to go into that 38 CFR, do some research on your own, because that is the basis by which all decisions are made by the VA.
Mm-hmm. Amy, anything on your side? You're muted.
But I'm sure it was great.
Yes. We
Yes.
literally just gave you all the keys to the kingdom, folks. Sorry you missed it.
So I would say hi to all my veterans that are out there. I've got a couple messages, and I am happy to see you guys here. It's nice to see you guys joining us. So as far as ratings, I would say that one of my clients, I'm not going to call him out, but I've been working with him since probably October of 2019, and we're slowly getting there. And I think we're almost to 100. I'm an instant gratification person, so it's hard for me to wait. And the waiting game sucks, and it gets very discouraging and frustrating and overwhelming. Um, but I would say that, start with what you have or what you might have, and then sometimes it can be a building block. So I was talking to my stepdad who had served, and he was in military police, and he still is in law enforcement and very successful. And we were talking about it a little bit yesterday, and they didn't even realize that he could get a rating, and he's had tinnitus, right? And so I was kind of trying to explain it to him. And I think the biggest thing is so many people think that they cannot get rated, and it's worth a shot. It's worth reaching out and saying, this is what I have. Maybe you have your medical records, maybe you don't. I've been trying to get my brother to do it for so long. He hurt his ankle, and he got this weird skin rash that he could definitely probably get rated for. And I think it's just a matter of knowing what you can. One of my friends asked, her husband asked, could he get rated for IBS? He had to have an emergency gallbladder surgery. Like, yes, ask the questions, ask us. The worst thing that can happen is we say, no, you don't have enough, or I don't think that you can get connected. But what I think a lot of people miss is that I always tell my clients it's building blocks. So sometimes you might not be able to go for that big thing right away, but say your migraines are out of control and you have tinnitus, then work on tinnitus first. All the time we see this. Get connected for tinnitus and then go secondary for migraines to your tinnitus. A lot of times people have all the documentation in the world for their migraines, but they don't think that they can get rated because they don't have that in-service medical documentation. But you can get rated for tinnitus. You were deployed for, 3 different times, and you were infantry. Yes, you can get rated for your tinnitus. So I think the biggest thing that's lacking is knowledge, just knowing the 38 CFR, or just reaching out to us and ask questions. It doesn't cost you anything to ask a question. Oh, perfect. And so the
I was
Kaluza
literally thinking Kaluza Triangle.
everything. So I think that, I've had some big wins, some wins that have been tough ones, but they've been wins that people have been working at for years. And so, you can't give up. We had one girl that filed in, I think it was January of 2019. And she finally got her C&P. And so sometimes it takes a while, but if she wins her claim, which I think she will, she's going to get her back pay from January 19th. So, it's worth it. One of the biggest things I tell people all the time is do an intent to file. An intent to file is not hard to do. Sign up through eBenefits and do it.
VA.gov,
It's,
benefits.
or I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, VA.gov. But you can also call. You can call the 1-800-827-1000, and you can do it right over the phone. your intent to file is good for 365 days. So maybe this month and next month you're in the middle of moving or you're on summer vacation, but October you're going to work on your claim. Well, then they'll backdate you to this date. So also another thing I tell clients is when you win, always do an intent to file. 100% doesn't always mean the end all be all. Sometimes there's other things that you can go for. Sometimes there's other things that you can, without going into too much detail, but you can qualify for SMCSs. There's things that people don't even realize that maybe they can qualify for: scars, breast reductions, erectile dysfunction, female arousal dysfunction, like all the things that you would never think of. Those are rateable conditions. And it always surprises me, I guess, because I'm used to doing this day in and day out, that people don't realize that these things can be rateable conditions. So you have PTSD, you have this, you have your gallbladder surgery, you're rated for your gallbladder surgery, you have IBS, you can't even go to certain restaurants, or you have to time it to where if you go to the restaurant, you have to be able to do this, or you have to be able to go here. Yes, that's a rateable condition. Go to the doctor, get a diagnosis, and file it. And so knowledge is power. So I would say reach out to any of us, ask us questions. The worst thing that can happen is say no, but I would venture to say that more often than not, we have a way that we can try to work with you and get you the ratings that you deserve. So stick with it, ask questions, and if you served, you deserve.
There you go.
Is that a UFO above you, DP, or
It
is that
is.
a hat?
It is a UFO. It's the Kaluza Triangle. For those that may have never seen what this is, these are the main tenets, and I'll block myself off because that's a better representation of what we need right there. Um, this is the basic tenets that kind of really give you the ingredients of what you need to file a claim. We talked about it before, but in Kaluza v. Brown, basically looked at what is needed to be able to look at a service connection for something. So you need to have all three of these elements. So, for example, do you have a current diagnosis? If you don't have a diagnosis of migraines, it doesn't matter how many times you went to sick call. A diagnosis is needed to be able to file a claim. You don't have that, no connection, because you have to have all three. Do you have an in-service event or aggravation? How are you tying this to service? How are you doing it? Secondary, whatever the case may be, that has to be there. And depending on how long you've been out of service, you're going to need some kind of nexus. Nexus being some connection, right? This could be a doctor's statement close to, for example, the veteran's current diagnosis is at least as likely as not, due to the X event in military service or due to their primary condition of this that caused that. All the medication that you've taken for your migraines is causing you now IBS issues, whatever the case may be, or you were exposed to something and that in turn gave you a presumption and you went ahead and did that. So this is the basic tenets of the three things you need to file said claim. If you have a presumption, let's say Vietnam, Gulf War, being in the Middle East, Gulf War illnesses and so forth, that's service, that red part there for in-service aggravation is looped into the presumption side. So you don't have to necessarily show something happened. No, because you were there, that Agent Orange exposure now is part of that presumption. You have to have a diagnosis, then you can go forward with the VA and file said claim. Um, that's one of the things there that I think it's good to at least highlight for folks to know when it comes to filing a claim. We'll get to some questions here in a second as well as they're populating. But to Amy's point, there's different things that are there. And we'll come back another day and talk about SMCs. The biggest thing that people need to get over is if you file a claim, it doesn't mean you cannot do this or that. Stop that. If you file a claim, it doesn't mean you can't automatically work. Not true. If you file a claim, it doesn't mean you lose your right. Not true. If you file a claim, I'm going to take away from Brian's benefits. Not true. The biggest misconception people have when it comes to filing a disability claim is that someone has it worse than I do. Well, of course. And guess what? Somebody has it better too. Your argument is void and mute. And the reason I'm saying this is because we're always in this mentality of, you know what, someone has it worse. And here's the reality. That person that has it worse, that person that you're thinking of the worst case scenario who's probably lost a limb or two or maybe a quadriplegic, they're getting a benefit that you're not even entitled to. That's where special monthly compensations come in. And that's a whole nother scale that you don't even know exists. So it's not just a 0 to 100. Special monthly compensations consider the loss of an organ, smell, sexual reproductive systems, and so forth. If you have a combined rating that goes over a certain point, there's additional monies that are available out there. If you have certain conditions or missing certain limbs, you have other SMC, special monthly compensations, on top of your regular rating, which takes you to another level. So let's say a max rating for someone is $3,000 or what have you. You have some folks with SMC that are, have an SMC that bumps them to four, five, six, eight, $10,000 or what have you, depending on their condition. When you put that in framework, again, you're not detracting from somebody else's situation. What you're dealing with is what you're dealing with. Brian's situation has nothing to do with me, nor does Amy's situation have anything to do with me. The same way when we served, their paycheck had nothing to do with my paycheck. If I was short, I was short, fix it. Same thing with your disability. If you have a situation, you're dealing with something, stop kidding yourself. This is not I take away from somebody else's benefit, because that's not how that works. A few questions that came up: what are markers? So when you're looking at some trauma conversation specifically to MST, military sexual trauma, it could be a man or a woman. If you were assaulted or you were exposed to some kind of situation that falls into that realm, you have the ability to file a claim. Now, what markers do is many a times, especially when it comes to sexual assault in any shape, fashion, or form, there may not be a report. It may be something that just never brought up. It was something that you kind of tucked away. So markers become part of the thing to say, for example, DP was a stellar veteran, soldier, right? And he was, high performer, high grades, PT this, all these amazing things. And all of a sudden in the summer of '07, something happened. And now DP is late to work. Now his scores are going down. Now he's finding ways to not go to work. All of a sudden, I go from never being sick to being sick call every other day. All of a sudden, I'm trying to get transferred out of the unit. So consider markers as the things that almost innately we do for fight or flight. In a kid, you would look at it as Uncle Bobby would touch Cindy. So every time afterward, right, when you hear the stories, it's like, well, now that makes sense, because every time we went over there, she'd get a stomach ache, or she'd be sick, or she didn't want to go. She'd find some way to get out of the situation. And as an adult, the same thing happens. So now you're late, you're tardy, you're having disciplinary issues, you're having legal infractions. You go from a rising star to just completely catapulting. And I've had veterans that literally went from rising stars that I've worked with, who all of a sudden they got booted out the military, divorce, legal problems, drug addiction, homelessness. Like, wait a second, what happened? DP was like this, and then it just went completely down. Something happened in '07. All of a sudden, Brian says, you know what, it's crazy. We would be gym buddies. We'd always go out there. And then all of a sudden, he's retracted. My sister Amy all of a sudden knows that I used to talk all the time. Then I pulled back. Something happened in that time frame. All those things around, right, the situation, the time frame. Now, when I say, for example, no, this is what happened and this is what was going on, those markers begin to kind of show the proof. So some
Yep.
people have a report or a complaint or something. Some people don't. And again, it doesn't mean that just because you didn't do that, you can't file a claim, because that's not correct. I know veterans who have filed a claim with no proof, with no legal complaint, no police report, and were still able to get rated for military sexual assault
Yep.
because everything combined showed the proof of what was going on. And obviously, those things are going to be handled delicately and separately at the VA, but that's what
Right.
markers do. Markers are marking behaviors that are out of the norm for where you were at. So again, a simple way to look at it is you're a rising star, everything's fine, and all of a sudden, all these things are happening that you don't realize: divorces, drug use, legal problems, unique situations, being late. Your fitness went to complete crap. Your rating scores went down. You were up for promotion. All of a sudden, you went from being soldier of the year, airman of the year, to just, you know what I mean? You're on a PIP. You're on a performance improvement plan. You're getting Article 15s. All these things are happening. Those events are markers that help you make the argument. So specifically to trauma, those are the things that help. So consider, for example, if you could fall down, a marker would be your limping. I see you limping. You may not tell me that your leg is broken, but I can see you're limping, right? But psychologically, markers are those things that you're doing that may be a hindrance to the situation around. So documenting that, getting statements, etc., helps to put the claim together should you move forward with a claim, specifically, especially when it comes to like personal assault, military sexual trauma, things of that nature, which
Yeah.
help to prove that.
So I would also add with that, that's been huge for MSTs. I just talk a lot about MSTs because I deal with a lot of MSTs, but some of the MST markers, it's tough because it's like they didn't report it, they didn't tell anybody, but there's something. So, like, for one, say that, after you have a baby, you're not supposed to have any sort of intercourse for 6 weeks. But something happened, you went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, something is not right. They document it in your record. You find it, that's a marker. Say that you were getting harassed by somebody and you didn't want to tell them. You went to whoever you were and asked to be removed from that unit. You didn't say why, but you asked to be removed from that unit. You removed from that unit, and for the next 3 years, you didn't do your job. You stayed away from that unit. That can be used as a marker. Um, some of the markers that's some of the markers that I've used for people is to say that, or somebody that was super skinny, scrawny, made fun of all the time, something happened, and all of a sudden he's like the biggest guy around. He stays in the gym because he says nobody will ever take advantage of him again. That's a marker showing the difference from who he was to who having, going through a rape, but not telling somebody that you went through a rape, but you went to get tested for STDs. That's a marker. You went to get tested for STDs. You went through a rape, you didn't tell anybody, but it resulted in a pregnancy. You can say that it happened by this person, and they can find out that, yes, indeed, you were stationed with this person. It's not that they go back to that person, but sometimes you have to dig. There was one girl that we got rated that didn't tell anybody, had a 7-year-old little boy, and she was very religious, into church, and it happened to be an active duty pastor that did it. And so she stopped going to church. Her friends didn't understand why, and she kind of went to the other side and became very wild and promiscuous. She got pregnant. She had a baby. She said she resents her son. Every time she looks at him, she thinks about it. Well, she got her friend to write a letter saying that for 3 years, she never missed a Sunday service. She was there. She never missed it. She came Wednesday. She was so involved. And all of a sudden, she stopped going, and she stopped being friends with her because she started drinking. She ended up getting kicked out. That was a marker. She went 0 to 100 because she had enough evidence to show. So it doesn't mean that because you didn't report it. And that's what I think a lot of anxiety comes from, especially the two that got rated this week to 70, both 0 to 70s, which are huge wins when it comes to MST. Both of them were very concerned that they didn't have a said complaint. Like, they didn't go to somebody and say this happened, but there was just this little piece of paper that said, yes, something isn't right here. And there you go. And you have it. And so it could be telling your significant other, or telling a best friend, or telling, somebody that you trusted, and them willing to write a buddy letter and say, yes, she told me that this happened at this point. That can be considered medical evidence to help support. So markers are huge, 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 huge. Um, and so I feel that a lot of times, once you dig a little bit deeper, and it can also be a change in behavior from when the time you got out. So say that you were, like DP was saying, this person, and then all of a sudden you became confused with your sexuality and you started doing X, Y, and Z, but that wasn't who you were, and it got you in trouble. And then you say, this is because of the military, and you can go back to the military and talk about what happened in the military, where you were, the situation that happened, and then you get rated. And so markers aren't just when you were in the military. Markers can also be bankruptcies, divorces, inability to maintain effective relationships, anger, outbursts. Somebody can say he was the nicest, sweetest person ever, and now I won't even drive with him. I have to drive, or he'll run somebody off the road. And so don't be open to kind of doing a deep dive into your life. I always say, like, a timeline: who you were before you were in the military, who you were in the military, who you were during this, what it happened, and who you were now. We had one guy that got rated, um, and he didn't talk to his family. He hasn't talked to his family for 7 years because he didn't want his family to see who he had become because of what had happened. Well, his family reached out and they wrote a letter and they said, we have no idea what happened to him, but we haven't spoke to him for 7 years. So it can be many different things. and think about those. I also tell clients, anytime you're going for any kind of mental health, start keeping a journal of things that you do that maybe you don't even realize that you do. Maybe you're very hyper vigilant. Maybe you check your doors 2 times before you go to bed at night. Or one client has his alarm set every 2.5 hours to check his video cameras. Maybe you have a very aggressive dog that isn't allowed in some apartment complexes or houses because that is your protection. You don't want anybody coming near you. It can be anything like that. Write down those things. Write down, do you drink to make yourself go to sleep because you don't want to go to sleep? Anything like that. So the biggest thing is reach out, ask questions. The worst thing that you can be told is, I don't think that you have a good claim. But I would say I can't count on one hand how many times I've told someone that they don't have a good claim. So I encourage anybody and everybody that's watching, if you want to talk, reach out and we'll talk and we'll see what you have and see if you can move forward with us.
Yep. So we're gonna do some rapid fire questions and then start transitioning. I think we have Chevis coming on here soon. So Paul asked, insomnia secondary to tinnitus. So insomnia is rated on the mental health side of the house, so it's a mental health rating. So the argument to be made there for insomnia secondary to tinnitus, you can have conditions that cause a mental health condition. If someone loses the ability to walk, that may have a psychological impact on them. And that's one of the things that people don't realize. You may be rated for something physical, that the rating doesn't go as high as you think. Tinnitus only goes to 10%. But if you have tinnitus to the point where you can't even hear the doorbell ring and your kids are making fun of you and your grandkids are making fun of you and you can't tell what's on or off because of this incessant noise, that may cause conditions for you of sleep issues or mental health conditions, anxiety, depression, and so forth. And that is a valid argument. But obviously, you'd have to have have a diagnosis of that. So that's an example of something that would be secondary for sure. So pause on that there as well. Let's see. Just had a sleep apnea denied. Really interested in this. So when it comes to sleep apnea, the biggest thing you have to look at also is because people mistake, I guess, some of that. And the VA tends to also sometimes deny things a lot. So that may be a thing where it may not be a first time go. You might have to go higher level review. You might have to go supplemental. But looking at, having the diagnosis, having a nexus letter, having some medical studies, go on WebMD, go to
Mm-hmm.
MedPub and look at some of the studies that are out there linking the proponent, the predisposition that veterans have to things like sleep apnea because of the things that they've dealt with, or the connection between mental health and sleep apnea, or the connection between mental, other things you may have in sleep apnea. You'd be surprised doing some searches on these things. So the VA has awarded these things. So it's not like it's just something that doesn't happen. It just really comes down to, does the claim have all the details they need? And if they get it right, because you could have everything right and you just be a shitty rater. Point blank, it's a
Yep.
human system, right?
Yep.
So if you fall on Raider Amy, right, she's a
Yeah.
short timer ready to retire, so she's just like, whatever, approved. You have Brian over here who's trying to move up the corporate
Approved.
ladder, and he's just like, no, you're missing a T here, denied. You just, and unlike school, they don't tell you what's wrong. It's just, hey, you got denied, and off they go. So
And
definitely
that's
And
what's
I
understand.
would
weird
just
too.
add
Mhm.
that most vets don't really know about secondary conditions as a
Yes.
potential way of pursuing claims. Just know that secondary condition needs to be backed up by a valid medical opinion.
Mhm.
Right. So just know that there's a whole world of potential there, but there still have to be certain things that are satisfied.
Yeah. Let's see. Roger said, yes, indeed. I had 3 back surgeries. 2 were due to drop foot. I got 10%, 10% on each leg. But again, then what's the psychological impact of those conditions, right? Is there another claim that could be had for that? Those are the things definitely to consider as well. Of course, Sam also introduces the fact that Android has a disability called software programming. That I don't think the VA is going to certify or help. Um, let's see. If CPAP helps with sleep apnea, could you still get a rating? Yes. It's basically what it's saying is, do you require this medically for your condition, right? So that's just something that you're maintaining because your AHI rating, right? What's your apnea rating and so forth. So if it's required, that's something that they definitely look at specifically to need for the rating criteria. So yes, it's required to be able to file that claim there, Chad. To your question. Let's see here. Okay, alrighty, we got my brother Chevis is
Hey,
in the
what's going on,
house.
guys?
What's up, brother? Just give me
What's
one
up?
second. We're gonna introduce here our brother Chevis, who we read his piece a few days ago recently. So
Yeah,
this will be
thank you.
interesting to show that here. We're just going through a few questions, and we'll come back to some of these as well. Let's see. One question is. Let's see. What if you're 100% P&T for mental health, but still need C&P for low extremities? Can the rating go higher? Well, yes and no. It depends, right? So if you have 100% for one thing and 60 or more for something else, then you can qualify potentially for SMCS1. But if you're PNT, I mean, I always look at it to say, some folks say don't poke the bear. I'm of the mindset if you're rated for something, you want to specifically know that you have the ability. If it's something that's life-threatening, especially like high blood pressure, something that can take you out, you want to make sure that it gets rated. But if it's not making a material, difference, again, you have the right to do it. It's not like, oh, I filed for this, they're gonna take me down. No, right? But at some point, some folks are trying to reach. Like, I'm gonna go get this and this and this and this. Like, okay, what are we accomplishing here? So it's not gonna necessarily bring you higher. You're already maxed out. But again, depending on the totality of it, if one condition is 100 and the others are 60 or more combined, that then unlocks SMCS1. So if you're in that ballpark, then yeah, that's something to explore. If you're not 100% on one specific thing, and then combine the others, then not so much. Um, let's see here. My support system is my sister, 20-year-old daughter. Buddy letters she wrote. Yep. Let's see here. Initially, you denied a claim for adjustment disorder, had Nexus claim and doctor support. I filed the HLR, and now it shows closed and no change in rating. VA decision pack in the mail can't be good. Yeah, if you see that says there's something in the mail and you don't see a change in there, they may well have denied it. That's usually a pretty quick telltale sign. So now the biggest thing is to have to say, okay, let's go ahead and look at a reset, right? How can we go ahead and potentially look at going back for another rating, right? Or having another look at it. And that may come in a few different ways. So let's say, for example, if you look at, I don't know, it got denied and they're saying you were missing this or this or that, or you didn't have a rating, or you didn't meet these symptoms or criteria, they may well have missed it. So now it's just a matter of saying, okay, now that we have that, you can go back for the high-level review. I think, Chevis, you're a little bit low. I see your chest, not your face. There you go. So I would say wait for the paperwork to come in, and then go ahead and file said claim with a higher level. Or if you need more evidence, then you have to go supplemental. A higher level won't work if something's missing. If you had no diagnosis, you can't go back for a higher level because 2 + 2 is 4. If you didn't put the first two, guess what? 2 + 0 will never be 4. If you're missing something, you have to add it. That's a supplemental. So we'll come back here to questions in a second. So keep popping them into the questions side of the house. But there's something here I want to show you all because Chevis wrote something amazing that we read specifically a few weeks ago. But apparently Chevis said, you know what, I'm going to cruise down and chill and relax. And, what else can happen in the world if you're just randomly, hanging out somewhere? So Chevis is just, hanging out. And this is actually something in the news that I think it's amazing. So we'll talk about it here in a second, but you have to just see this. So this is Chevis's dash cam on his car. He's cruising, relaxing. He's gonna go hang out with his dog and do his thing. It's a great day, vibing out, good music. Apparently something's going on there. You see a cop car. There's some restraint action here towards the let's get flying DP action going on here. Or we'll have, where is flying DP at? Right there. Boop, boop, boop. There is the police officer, right? And no, I'm not, doing anything for the police officer. Hold my hand. There you go. So here is the police officer, right? So let's play what had happened.
I know we got this music going on in the background, but I feel like in my head, I'm playing "What You Gonna Do When They
Yeah.
Come For
What you
You."
gonna do when Chevis comes for you? Because look at this right
I
here.
had several people say they were, I got on the KKTV website to kind of maybe a little bit moderate some of the responses, because what you don't see here is the first minute of this officer fighting with this suspect. Um, I have 4 minutes of total video of this whole incident before I take the left and just cruise.
Right.
I
So here they're pretty much. So at this point, there's already a minute. This has been going on in some shape, fashion, or form. Correct.
Let's go back to the beginning real quick. I know you're going to have a little bit of lag with me, but let's go right back to the beginning.
Yep.
Right here, this fight is already coming up off the ground. This fight has already come to the ground. He hip tossed this dude. So the cut on this video is immediately when my door slams. As soon as I'm actually out sprinting my camera. My camera does like one frame every 60th of a second, and I actually out-framed my camera with my sprint time. So race me, guys.
Let's not. There's a heroic aspect to this, but that right turn right there, where you immediately went ahead and go there. I'm saying right now, this point right here is where my service-connected left knee would have given out. You see that right there? There's no way in hell that my knee is going to support that movement here, where you went that way.
That needs a registered weapon, by the way.
I would just now be clearing the front of the vehicle.
I would literally just kind of just go like this, whop whop to the side. And
Can you imagine Jay? Can you imagine what Jay wouldn't have even made it out of his vehicle?
Well, first of all, let's get something straight. You see how that door began to open right there? That he ran across? We would have probably ran into that open door. So let's just get that.
I saw that door pop as soon as I started to cross the plane to the back of the car, and it looked like she was actually trying to clothesline me.
No, I can see it. Look at
look
at your daggone hip movement
it's
here.
able to catch my leg.
Are you some kind? You also must have some salsa moves, because look at the hip movement here. He literally sees the door open. See that little hip move right here, right here? He kind of like tucks into the side and kind of swerves in there.
I spent a little time in South Texas in San Antonio. So when I was in canine school, I only dated Hispanic girls because they loved to dance, and I love to dance. So
and that's where my service-connected hip would have given out right there with that little side shimmy that you just did there. So
I can't believe my knees held like that. I had felt the grip in the world. On the bottom end, I have all the tires in the world, but I'm surprised the springs held.
It's funny to watch that.
And look at this. See the little drag of the knee right down the floor? He did a whole little like slide there, a la Michael.
I want to see the traffic camera. I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of that spin.
That is a good jiu-jitsu move right there. You do a good little shrimp right there. I like that.
So I've done a little bit of fighting. Of course, I'm a military canine handler, in a past life, 10 years ago. So here's the craziest thing. I've talked several times about like serendipity and synchronicity, right? Luck and timing. And how lucky am I that I was there? How lucky is this officer that, an individual here? There were so many scenarios that could have gone so differently in this situation, and I initially didn't want to get involved at all. All I was trying to do was just make sure that as they went to the ground, they were below bumper line, they're below sight line. People can't see them. I don't want them to get run over.
So for those that don't know, so let's do a quick rewind. So everybody sees this right here. Chevis, introduce yourself a little bit for those that don't know. Tell us a little bit of yourself, what you did in service. Again, we read your letter the other day. We introduced who you were, but now that you're actually here, tell us a little bit about your time in service, what you did. Now that we understand that, one, you have some sweet football moves. Two, you have some amazing hip movement based off salsa, and your ground game looks pretty amazing based off that whole swivel you did there.
So, I'm a 6-year Marine canine handler veteran. I went and worked for the State Department after medical retirement for a little while. Marine Corps said I was a broken Tory. I proved that I wasn't, and went and put it on for a couple more years. I got out. I went back to school. Failed. worked around for a while, and I found kind of purpose working in the firehouse, and I became a fire medic. I worked through paramedic school. Um, and so I have this kind of broad spectrum. I don't have a lot of years or a lot of time in really anything that I've ever done. In any of my canine spectrum, military spectrum. But I have this, maybe not the depth, but the breadth of understanding just how chaotic situations work. And so this situation, what you don't see, you see the door slam, and I'm already full sprint. I mean, I think I was out of my truck before. Let's roll forward like 2 seconds for me.
Say again.
Roll the video forward like 2 seconds for me. There. No, come back just a second, right where the door opens. That was an immediate, there was no reaction. There was no decision-making process in any of this sprint. That was like 60 to 70 feet from my door to where that officer stood. And it was a dynamic situation that's moving into traffic and across my plane of view. And this isn't something that you just go, I would do that. I would jump out of my truck. You either do it or you don't. And I honestly was very impressed with myself for having the clarity to be able to register all of the possibilities that could happen with me running that fast at that officer, including the possibility that I could be shot and killed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a light situation, and it was not something that I wanted to see at 9 a.m. But
Absolutely.
I'm glad that everybody went home.
Yes,
I think
that's
that,
awesome.
and that goes to that whole fight or flight, right? I mean, and again, that goes to service. And we've talked about this before. So Jay, who's commenting, one of my best friends in life, he works in the first responder world. He's corrections. I retired from being a first responder, working in counterterrorism with Homeland Security. So, these are the type of things that, coming from service, you'd be surprised how many times things happen, and it's in some shape, fashion, or form. Usually, some kind of veteran that kind of pops up out of nowhere, and you wouldn't expect it. It's like that whole thing that's in there where there's no thought. And again, I'll place it in the beginning, but it's
not a thought process. It just immediately happens. You either have or you don't. And not even everything is going to happen. I've met several people, and that's okay. But identifying it and identifying the response that you're going to have in a situation like that is the most critical. I want to hit Jay Mel's comment because I see this pop up top. I knew all of the risk going into the situation that I put myself in. I went through a very, very quick thought process where I rattled down lethal outcomes. I could possibly get killed. I could possibly roll into traffic. All of these scenarios have to play, and you have to recognize. We used to use OODA loop. I don't know if everybody recognizes OODA loop, but it's observation, orientation, right? Decision, and action. And it's a recursive pattern. You choose to act, and then you observe what's going on in front of you as you move forward, and you continue to develop your game plan on the information that you're gathering at the time. And that's exactly what this is. Maybe it was split seconds. It was all endorphins and adrenaline and just training. Right? But there's another gentleman that I really want to commend. There's an older gentleman in a yellow T-shirt that you see, or a polo, here in frame. It's hard to see from this depth, but that gentleman stayed with the officer, and I think from his demeanor and his kind of not stature. I'm losing the word. Either way, he kept just kind of containment with the officer and the suspect through a lot of this altercation, where he knew getting physically involved was probably going to hinder situation, but he was just trying to keep them from, you notice that as he enters the situation and enters the frame, he's just trying to make sure that they don't get too far out to where they're in this cross traffic. We were probably less than a car length from cross traffic, and that video doesn't show that depth.
I think it's interesting to see the girl get out and run. And then also, what did the guy go to pick up in the black, what is it, Tahoe? He goes behind the car to pick something up.
So
She takes off.
roll back to where she just gets out of the car. Back right as she exits the car, roll back frames, you see that she's trying to put something in her pocket. She initially tried to get out of the car. So this is a really complex situation, and this is why you can't take this 1 minute frame of this 4-minute altercation and base all of your judgment on just what you see, especially because of the fact that the news channel actually blurred a lot of the relevant information of what's going on in the middle of this frame. So as this altercation goes from left to right, from the driver's side of the main vehicle to the right side of that black Tahoe, there's a lot of things developing in the background that would have, I guaranteed, gotten lost in had this view not been here. But most of what's going on is going on in front of these vehicles, right up basically in front of that police cruiser. So there's the understanding that I have from this situation is that the officer was off duty. He was fueling up his police cruiser on his way from home to work in Fountain. Headed to roll call, whatever. And a citizen came running on foot. I believe it may have been this gentleman in the yellow shirt that came and said, "Hey, this guy is like beating on this woman in this green Volkswagen at the intersection." They had been sitting at that light. If any of y'all have been through that light, it sits there. Several minutes in cycles. So they had been through this light a couple of times where this guy is, hitting this woman,
which is the
before someone is able to say something. So this situation escalated far before the officer was ever even capable of apprised of what's going on. So by the time the part of this clip that gets cut off just before this, if I zoom in really far and basically pixelate them into Mario characters, you see like 2 pairs of feet just go end over end in different directions at the same time. So you see the hip toss, you see the officer try to use his defensive tactics. He's trying not to use his tools, trying to control the suspect. And this guy is just, he's 150 pounds and squirrely and on drugs, and he's not going to go down without a fight. Roll slow and watch this stand up. You see this come up like pretty gradually, and then you see him just slip out. They roll across the hood there of the suspect's vehicle. You see the girl come out. Initially, here's another important point. You see the girl exit the vehicle, see what's going on, then decide to go back in for something. Pocket, drop, realizes that she dropped whatever it was, and just decides to bail. That's what that guy picks up. I'm not sure if it was I'm pretty confident. I don't want to say definitely. I don't like absolutes, but they were pretty clearly intoxicated. They were probably on drugs. But that wasn't really the focus of my involvement with the situation. it gives a lot of relevance to the situation, though. I mean, these people are sitting in traffic. The police get involved because they've been sitting through a light, and then a physical altercation breaks out. So I mean, and for anyone that has, especially law enforcement background, you know that domestic violence situations are, I think, like something like 77% of the totals that create
Wow.
lethal events with police involvement.
Wow.
You have individuals that feel cornered, they feel trapped, they don't feel like they have anything left or anywhere to go. And the situation has to escalate to try to control the threat.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so all of the niceties, all of the, whatever hostage negotiation tactics of trying to reason with this person go out the window.
Mm.
Wow.
Brian, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm just, I think you said it all, but, it's one of those things where your training kicked in and you did your assessment and you acted. And I think it's cool that you had a dashboard camera there. Whenever I first saw that, I thought,
Mhm.
I asked Lisa if you were in law enforcement. She said, no, that's just something he has as well. And so that's pretty nice that you had that there,
Uh,
because that really does help tell the story.
the dash camera was definitely thought process when I got the truck. Coming back from law enforcement background and recognizing that you have to be able to document incidents that happen in front of you like that. I completely forgot about that footage and the camera even being there until I got to the dog park and started talking to Lisa. And she's like, "Wait a minute, don't you have that?" I'm like, "Wait a minute, let's go look at that." It was a pretty crazy morning. Two points I want to grab real quick. One, I want to actually address, B Mel's question. Um, I didn't run into that situation blindly. I knew the risk. I assessed the risk. Um, there there were some pretty bad outcomes that were going to cross my mind, but I knew that inaction had a higher guarantee of having a bad outcome than the super maybe high but less likely outcome of me getting shot by that officer by trying to help him. So that was not a blind situation. It was just I want to say it was instinct again, but it was a calculated risk.
And we have some comments here. Let's see.
Sure.
So, OODA loop. We've definitely talked about that a few times. Frank says, if I tried to run like that, my back and my hips would have taken you right down with you. Um, let's see. Frank says that's the Marine Corps way of thinking. Semper Fidelis. Alan says Marines are not trained the same as anyone. We know how to think and make the outcome we want and don't believe in luck. Mark says that's all Marine Corps, running towards the fire. Um, Roger is concurring here as well. Most injured and murder police are in domestic calls, especially when you have drugs involved in that, which is a whole different conversation. Um, AR says here, perfect example of good men doing the right thing. God bless you, Marine. So definitely thank you for that there. Um, Amy, what are your thoughts?
So I would say thank you for your service. I think that's great. I think it goes back to that fight or flight type of thing that DP was talking about. You kind of know that there's that calculated risk, but your instincts are what they are, and you went out and you did what you did. And it's very heroic, and you deserve to be recognized for that. So thank you. I think it's amazing. Um, good job on you. So,
Yeah,
uh,
Mhm.
yeah.
and
And thank
I
you
think
for joining us and sharing it with us.
yeah,
Thank you for having me. Really, no, this is an interesting story. It's a crazy thing that
Yeah.
happens. It doesn't happen every day.
Right.
But
But
I think that one of the great points about this stuff here also, Chev, is that you know no matter what someone's capabilities are, right? The other gentleman, for example, he has the build that looks, like he was in some type of, profession, right? You can just tell that by the build, right?
absolutely,
So he may well have been retired police, he may have been military, but maybe his limitations were like, look, I can't scrap or get on the floor. If I get down, I can't get up. So he's just there, like, look, at least I'm going to monitor this and make sure that there's nothing crazy. But the point is, even if it's someone making a phone call or someone, at least trying to be there, or someone, being able to do the cha-cha slide like you just did there, and do a quick 440, it's there's something that can be done. And I think it just goes to the fact that, just because you're out of service and that's a past life, you never know when those things that we know how to do come in handy. And it may well be, calling 911. It may be being a witness. And in your case, not only the fact that you were there, but you had a dash cam and you have this proof that shows exactly what happened, especially in the world that we live in, where it's a lot of he said, she said, because absent the details, it's like, oh, and again, we're not going to make this a conversation of that, but the biggest thing you said is the context of everything. This 1 minute clip doesn't tell the whole story, especially even the fact of what happened before that, what happened in the vehicle, the things that we don't even know about that day it happened, what's the history of what's going on. So it's easy to just make assumptions towards things, but being able to at least even be there like you were at the right place at the right time, you had the camera there, you were able to jump in there just without, much hesitation, and be supportive, because you never know, that easily could have rolled into oncoming traffic. So many ways all this stuff could have gone, and it could have been a tragic situation. And thankfully you were there and able to make some moves, and be of service yet again.
thank you.
And then afterward,
Yeah.
you kind of went back to relax mode and went to the dark park.
I have a really awesome profile picture that I photoshopped an explosion behind. I mean, if you haven't seen me on Facebook, I mean, I'm pretty hot right now.
I think I did see that. Let me try to see if I can pull that up. But
If anybody has better Photoshop skills, I mean, it's a pretty grainy photo, but
did you do this picture?
Yeah, I pulled it from the dash cam, and then I think I used like some like cheaper free iPhone app to add like a Google vector.
So if you guys are scrolling through the interwebs, there it is. Straight up, all right, guys, good work, everybody. Time to go ahead and
I
shut it
love
down. Papa got to get to the dog park and
You
continue
guys
his
don't
day.
look at explosions.
Nah,
That's
I
right.
love it.
That's
Like
awesome.
This is
Frisbee.
pretty badass.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you, my brother. Like I said, I'm glad you were there.
Thank you.
The last question I'll ask you is, how did you feel afterward? Because again, psychologically speaking, we all go through things and deal with things, but how did it feel for you being able to, for one literally quick minute, right, as seen on camera, to
Yeah.
be of utility again, right? Like there's no, we joke around obviously and talk about things, but
Yeah,
for that
absolutely.
1 minute there, the adrenaline got pumping again. You got back into the nick of things, and all training aside, many folks don't get a chance to actually be in the thick of it. Or again, right? We may have done this in service. We may have been exposed to things. What did that feel like for you? Feeling all of those endorphins, all that adrenaline rush, and then the aftermath of that.
So the initial endorphin rush, and I guarantee you that anybody's in a Valley Gun Club um, knows, is that combat feels like an opiate high. You feel high, you feel low, you feel numb, you feel everything all at once. And this was a combat situation. I have no idea what I'm running up on. I've made my assessment the best I can, and I'm just trying to keep a level head, right? Even still, days later, I think the thing that hangs with me, and I think this is another thing that especially the combat arms guys are going to recognize, is there are specific moments in my history where I recognize maybe just a couple little notes of the background of a tune of a song.
Mm.
And I have the bass line of that lo-fi song that's playing in the background of the clip that's actually before that. And it's just been playing in my head for several days, and it kind of keeps taking me back to that place. But not necessarily in a way of what could I have done differently, but analyzing this is what I did. If this somehow magically were to deja vu and I did it again, what could I have done better? What, where, where was my thought process? I mean, philosophically, mentally, emotionally, this thing was, um, it brought back a lot of really bad memories, honestly. And I think one of my primary drivers was the fact that I didn't want to see those terrible things happen again, or some analog of those terrible things happening again.
Mm.
And so you just kind of go into this. You hear these stories about mothers lifting a whole full weight car off their child in a car wreck, and nobody can understand why. They don't think that it it's supposed to make sense. It's just supposed to happen. And I was put in that intersection at that time um, for no reason that I can identify. Every reason that I can come up with should have put me at that intersection at some significantly different or deviant time. I should not have been there. And for that to happen in front of me, it wasn't. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
I don't think there are words that can explain that situation, right? Like those of us that have seen fire or seen conflict or gone to a domestic call or seen combat. There isn't a description that you can use in common English language, at least that I've found, that can describe the feeling, the intensity, but also maybe the personal calmness you have and have to have in that moment of chaos.
No, that makes perfect sense. Um, and that's a good point. Some of the things we've been talking about, specifically for folks, who have experienced trauma before, and things like this resurface things. These things can retrigger things for other people. And you may have the other extreme of other individuals who may completely just be paralyzed in a moment like that. And then, they're just kind of just stuck where they may not be able to do something like that. So, regardless of what, the outcome may be, things happen in life after service, and being able to at least talk about it, get it out, whatever it may be what someone's dealing with, especially, speaking to the veteran population, these are things that are valid, right? Because again, in one instance, you have the amazing feats that, again, thank God that you were there, right? But there may have been someone in another vehicle who was just paralyzed and completely just stuck and could not do a thing. And now that, that whole thing is playing in their head of their inability to do this or that. So there's a lot of ways these things can definitely affect the psyche, and that starts looking into triggers and resurfacing traumas and things of that nature. But the biggest thing is, regardless of what it may be, these are instances where all these cars, all these individuals had a different perception of what happened. Right? We're literally looking at Chevis's point of view, what he went through there, but what did that gentleman in the bright shirt? What was his perspective of that? How did that affect him? So when these things time to happen, I'd encourage anyone. Again, it could happen to anyone out there. You could have seen something, been exposed to something. Um, don't dismiss things. Give it valid space.
Absolutely.
Be able to get help if you need the help, because the reality is, again, how you process these events for different people will do different things. So it's good to highlight these moments because they're talking points that when you least expect it, on the way to the dog park, on the way to the grocery store, or back from work, or like the officer going to work, and you're kind of just going about it, and boom, here you are in the thick of it before you even start the clock. You never really know. So definitely something that I would definitely say, don't dismiss however you are experiencing the world if you're out there, no matter what may be happening, because your feelings are valid and your reality is valid, no matter which car you were in or what action you took or did not take, specifically in things like this. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, brother, and you jumping on here with us and sharing your story and showing us some of those sweet moves that me and Brian definitely cannot do with our left knees.
I couldn't do it either. I
Not
couldn't do
going
it
to
either.
happen.
The way
Nah,
my
baloney. If Amy
disabilities
would
are
have been
set
there, she
up.
would have low crawled under the car and came up here
No,
on the other side.
yes, I definitely would have low called. And I just want to apologize. Somebody brought it to my attention that my phone is set up to um it types when somebody's talking, and so the typing was in the background. I didn't
Oh
have
Uh,
it
goodness
set
gracious!
off.
You're one of those people. Turn the damn
well,
squeaky noise off.
I've been
So
blown up a
I'm
couple
sorry.
times,
I
so
didn't
I'm
realize
guessing
it,
that I
but
can
thank
notice
you
it.
to Capri and Brian and Jay who pointed it out to me that my phone was doing it. So I'm sorry, Chevis. That was nothing.
It's okay.
Yeah, I do a lot of text to talk, and so I like to hear the sounds of that. Anyways, I'm sorry. Thank you
So,
so much
no,
for coming.
Amy, EP, Brian, thank you all for having me. Lisa, I know you're probably off and not watching, but thank you for connecting us. Um, I want to circle back on 2 points. One, the first, yes, please reach out, talk. If you're struggling with something, anything, there's such a thing scientifically as transitional trauma. If you're going through a major life event that doesn't necessarily have to be something that would be considered traumatic, it can affect you in traumatic ways. Reach out if you need someone, please. Reach out to me, reach out to anyone on this screen right now, please. Anyone.
You know, it's interesting that you said that when you were talking about that. I my ex-husband's mom was killed by a drunk driver, and we were driving down Denver I-25, and this car just spun out of control, and it was not going to be a good situation, and I was going to jump out, but he jumped out and he ran to it, made sure the guy was good, everything was good. But when he got back in the car, it reminded me of kind of what you were saying, and he was like, wow, that just brought I mean, he wasn't there when it happened to his mom, but he was like, that was tough. That was really tough to think about what I was about to walk up into. So it's such a heroic thing that you did, and good on you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
For
definitely.
I
sure.
appreciate you, my brother, for hanging out with us
Yes.
for a little bit.
Thank you very
So
much.
yeah, we'll definitely have
Yes.
you back again. And in the
Last
meantime, oh yeah, do you have one more?
last thing. One more. One more. I don't want to steal your thunder because I know you guys were waiting, but you talked about my writing. So I want to kind of take this point since we're talking about sharing and talking about what's going on. The last piece that was shared. Thank you, DP, for reading that so well. That was amazing. And the current piece that I think are going to go up on voices for the voiceless section.
Hmm.
Um, that was a dedication that I requested because it is for all of you that submit anonymously. Write something. Just express how you feel. Submit
Hmm.
it. Put it up. We'll read it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about how we all relate to it because I promise you, you are not alone in how you feel.
I love that. Actually, I wrote a poem when I was in ninth grade in psychology, and I still have the original letter that I wrote it. And it's, I think I've shared it. Did I share it with you, DP? I might have shared it with DP, or I thought I shared it with somebody. It was maybe Nayali. I wrote it when I was in ninth grade. The paper is really worn, but after I heard, kind of basically what you're talking about, I thought about putting it up there. It's interesting to see where I
Please do.
was thinking in
Sure.
ninth grade, and it still relates to today. So, yeah.
I think those things. So I don't know if I mentioned earlier that the day this whole police involvement incident happened, that was the 9-year EAS anniversary of when I got out of the Marine Corps.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
So
wow.
I was just planning. I had this day planned. I was going to go play with my dog. We were going to go up the mountain and just enjoy the sunshine, and a fountain police officer just happens to get in my way and need help. But um, the I guess how I kind of would relate to that is that like you really never know how your day's going to go, and I think giving yourself the opportunity to process it in some way that just lets you, if only just document it, write it down and burn it. Just deal with it.
Yes,
Don't hold
yes,
on to it.
yes, yes. I actually, that's great advice. When I was in counseling when I was younger, they said that, if you write it and you burn it,
Mm-hmm.
then at least you said it out loud. Write it, read it, burn it.
I've had to go through several stages of my life. I know we're probably going to talk again sometime. Sorry, I'm getting dark here too.
No
Uh,
worries.
but uh, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a combat veteran. I've been through several traumatic car wrecks that were mostly self-induced. I like racing cars, so but there's this broad spectrum when we talk about combat or we talk about sexual assault trauma, and those are great and terrible things, and we don't talk about some of those smaller traumas that kind of lead up to those. A wall isn't built overnight. It's built brick by brick, and it's those little traumas that maybe hide in the shadows of those bigger ones that we don't talk
Mhm.
about. We should.
Absolutely.
We can talk about all of it and share. It doesn't make you less of a person to be vulnerable. It makes you more of one.
100% agree.
Yes.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
one of the things that we're always telling vets: be open and honest and vulnerable, and particularly as we started the show off with talking about VA claims, disability claims. That's the one that that's one of those times amongst other self
So
reflecting times that you might be going through. But when you're actually going through that claims process, you've got to be completely open, completely vulnerable.
Hmm.
It's
absolutely.
can be one of the most uncomfortable experiences, but just got to pass through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was put out of the Marine Corps with degenerative joint disease in my hips and knees and my right shoulder, and a blown eardrum that I was completely deaf in my left ear because I'm a left-handed shooter, and tinnitus in my other one, basically all kind of bolted together, and no option for surgery, no option for really any kind of medical care to actually take care of those things, and they gave me 30% initially. I fought for like 2 years, got 60%, and then fought for another year and finally got 80. And I'm still fighting because I'm going to get 100% P&T. Because
Good.
don't think of military entitlement as disability. You are disabled. You are incapable if that's what keeps you from chasing it. It's a quality of life adjustment.
Hmm.
Your body has been damaged and used up, and some of your best years have been taken. Take advantage of that. You're
Hmm.
not abusing it. It's there for you.
No, no comment. Nothing to add on that. 100%. For those that didn't listen to that, rewind it again. Listen to that part because that is the terror roof.
Yep.
Terry made a comment, said the long road
I'm
back is one of spoken word that
Oh,
brings tears to me every time. Thank
That
you,
is
hi,
Terry.
Terry.
that's a great text.
Yes.
That's a great read. Please do. Um, guys, we need to talk. I'll probably need to talk mostly with UDP. I would like to do maybe like a reading list, and maybe not like entire books, but it is entirely possible to find passages or chapters of books that I think are relevant to certain topics, and we'll chat offline more about this. But I would even be interested in maybe hosting or helping organize that.
Yeah.
I think reading and kind of analyzing some of these things is an important gateway to the path of finding ways to express yourself in these hard things that are easy to hide, easy to put away.
Mhm.
No, for sure, definitely, I like that. Um,
Yeah.
awesome. So
Yes.
appreciate you, my brother. We'll definitely get
Absolutely.
that circle back around. We
Thank you.
have some questions that we'll get to here. Chavez, as usual, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you've
Yes.
done.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for sharing that. And
Thank
definitely
you,
looking
everyone.
forward to more amazing things to come. For sure.
My messages are always open. I'm on Facebook like pretty much 24/7. I'm a marketing student, so I literally use it for work all day. So if you need to reach out, you need to talk to anyone, and nobody you know is chatting, send me a message. More than likely, you'll get a hold of me in probably 15 to 20 minutes. Seriously, most times of the day.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
Thank
Appreciate you.
you. It was
Talk
good
Appreciate
to
it.
soon.
have you
Yeah.
on again. Take
Thank
care,
you.
sir.
All
Thanks,
right,
Chavez.
brother.
Bye, guys.
Let's see. So the section that he brought up, we're gonna host that if folks would go over to veteransnetwork.club. We're gonna add that as another section on the page, specifically for those that are looking to submit writing pieces and things like that. So some more things to come for sure. We're gonna finish some questions that we had. Excuse me. Had some folks that pop in. Freddie's in the house. Thank you for being here, my brother. Long time no see. Good to
Yes.
see you. Terry's in the house. Glad to see you here as
Terry.
well.
I'm so
Roger
glad to see
is
Terry.
face blocked from Facebook with a 30-day penalty. So he is in the Duns corner for a little bit. So that's not definitely good. Um, let's see.
I know
Uh,
Capri's here. She was having a hard time um, writing a message. I got a couple messages from clients saying that they couldn't message for.
maybe I don't know. Might be a signing into YouTube type of thing. So
Oh,
something to
okay.
look into. But definitely a few things there. Let's see. So we're gonna add that to the page here. Some pretty cool things that are on the site. If you guys check it out, we did do our pilot season a few a week or two ago now, a week ago, sorry. And we have the shirts and things that were put together specifically for TMR and Maria. So like the little water bottles, which is pretty dope. Is
Yep.
on there, so you guys can check that out. We did not advance for the pilot itself. So, we'll reset and kind of go at it a different way. But as far as updates are concerned, they did proceed and pick out some other groups or teams or concepts for sure that they thought were more suited. So that's some of the updates on the front and center efforts. So we are resetting and looking at some of that there and kind of moving forward. So there's that part. Let's see. Shaky says, I needed to hear this because I turned 30 soon. Body's been so damaged. Just had my mental health reval, and psychologist disrespected me so much that I told him I was choosing to be crippled. Um, and I think one of the things there, specifically to folks that may have put in a claim or dealt with someone at the VA, the reality is some of these examiners, some of these people you deal with are fucking assholes. So let's just call it what it is. They're fucking idiots. You know what I mean? So I don't work for the VA. I'm not a part of the VA. It's not a part of what I do. But as a veteran, I'll tell you, I've heard some stories, seen some things that some people just should not be practicing shit. And
Yep.
it is incumbent on what Amy introduced earlier and some of the stories you talked about that you have rights. This is not the military of you have to do this, you have to do that. You don't have to do a goddamn thing, but pay your taxes and fucking die at some point, right? So you don't have to deal with the provider provided to you. as a veteran, you have the right to say, I don't want to work with this doctor. I don't feel comfortable. This psychologist, this psychiatrist, I don't feel comfortable with them. I don't want to be a part of this care. So I'm going to request a new one. I went to a C&P exam, and this examiner tried to belittle my service or what I did. You know what? Kick rocks. I'm going to request a new one. Write a complaint letter. You're not just subject to dealing with whatever they give you. You have rights. There are patient rights. And the fact of the matter is, the VA doesn't always get it right. It's an imperfect system with good people. But sometimes there are some rotten apples in there. And anyone that would make the assumption, especially as a psychologist, disrespect you and say that you're choosing to be a cripple, I didn't choose to endure what I endured. I didn't choose to be exposed to what I was exposed to. So sorry that unlike you, I don't have the ability to do certain things. So I came here to try to say something and be looked at and given a chance to be evaluated, not to be demoralized. So do your fucking job and examine. You're not the judge and jury. Because again, like I said in the beginning, the veteran's job is to be a veteran. The examiner examines and the rater rates. So do your damn job and rate and examine me, or I will put a complaint in about what you did not do. And it's simple. It's, hey, VA, I just had an exam and this doctor belittled me and stuff. I thought I was coming here to be seen and evaluated. That did not happen. I'd like to put a formal complaint in. Because guess what you don't know? He did the same thing to Amy. He did the same thing to Brian. He did the same thing to Shaky. He did the same thing to Jay. He did the same thing to this person. Unless somebody actually makes a point to put a complaint in, you'll never know that these pieces of shit are not being taken off the system. So that's just the reality. You know what I mean? So sometimes there's a time to kind of, look at it that way. Because again, imagine someone who spent 10, 5, 20, 30 years, and it's frustrating because you spent how long to be able to make a complaint, and then someone's just going to disrespect you or say that your condition is invalid? Fuck you. I'm sorry, but look, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat this damn thing. You have rights. Put a complaint in. Don't accept that because they don't deserve to do what they do. So, hey, sorry for the foul language, but it is what it is. It's bullshit. You got to call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? You don't treat people that way. You served. You deserve to be able to make your complaint, to be able to be seen. And if you are not getting the audience that you are supposed to get, you make a complaint. Because what you don't know is that complaint could be the one that takes that doctor or that provider out of play. And then you can get a fair shake at it. Don't just sit there and think, oh, I don't have rights. You do have rights. You walk out of C&P and you felt that did not go the way it should have. I came here for mental health and I was belittled. I came here for a back condition. I was belittled. 1-800-827-1000. Call.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I just add to that, DP? Because I'll tell you, not only call the VA, but call the contracting company that they work under, because most of these exams are handled under one of the three contracting companies: LHI, QTC, or VES. And so, whenever you are seen by one of those examiners, not only let the VA know, but let that contracting company know, because I'll tell you, I was being scheduled for a C&P, and I didn't, honestly, whenever this first happened to me, I didn't realize that I could just file the complaint, or maybe I was just so disoriented because I was so shocked and just upset that I didn't think about filing a complaint. Whatever the case was, I didn't file a complaint whenever something happened with an examiner, and they kept sending me to the same 2 or 3 examiners. Finally, whenever they tried to schedule me again, I said, I am not going back to that examiner because they have screwed me over multiple times. And that's when I was informed that, do you want to file a complaint? I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that, but absolutely. I mean, because here, this and this and this is what they did that was inappropriate. And it takes us, every one of us who experience that, to file those complaints formally and make sure that those are logged, and eventually, hopefully, we can, shake out the chaff, get rid of these worthless examiners who really have no business being around veterans in any capacity.
Pieces of shit. Roger's
actually,
response.
I have something to add to that.
Real quick, Roger says, Shaky, you are not a victim, you are a vet.
Facts. I had a client that got denied. I had his brother, we got him to 100%, and then his dad, we got to 100%, and then he came and he went to Afghanistan. I know one time for 1 year, but he had some pretty significant things happen to him, and he saw some pretty heroic thing, not heroic, very bad graphic things, people being blown up, etc. And he went to C&P, and he was telling them about what was on his paper, and he didn't really know exactly how much detail to go into, but it was clear that he's experienced a lot of death through his military career. I kid you not, the C&P examiner wrote, and I quote, "It's okay to feel sadness and disappointment and loss when you lose people that you love," and denied him. Straight denied him. I mean, and there was more to it, but basically saying that that doesn't necessarily mean you have PTSD because you're having bad feelings or you're feeling sadness because people did not come back with you. I thought to myself, has this lady been in the military? I know mine look like the age of my son, um, but there's good ones out there. Don't get
So
me wrong, there's good ones,
some examiners
but some of them,
have not served. And again, that is not the barometer for certain things, but certain things like that. It's just like, look, we're not saying
what
that
is happening?
grandma freaking passed
Yes,
away and I'm sad. She went, no, buddy, I saw some shit. Some people that I cared
yes,
about in front of me got dismembered and blown to smithereens or exposed to certain things or certain things happen. And guess what? That's not that I'm sad. I'm not feeling lost. I'm not depressed because of this. It's called trauma. It's called trauma.
yes,
And that's
yes,
what
yes.
has to be explained. So in a situation like that, you have the ability to request a high level review and say, wait a second,
Hmm.
this examiner got it wrong. What you're saying is that, oh, people experience sadness. This is not sadness. There's some
Mm-mm.
crazy thing out there called post traumatic stress disorder. And it's actually a recognized condition by the DSM 5. It's actual condition recognized by
Yeah.
psychologists. Maybe you went back to school or actually Googled the damn situation, you'd realize that this is something that people that do what we do experience. The 1% of
Yeah.
population serves, sorry, you did not do said thing. This is not Auntie Anne or Grandma,
Right.
Janine passes
Right.
away and I'm having a
Right.
sad day. This is a whole
Right.
different
Right.
conversation. So what I would say for situations like that is, and again, I'll call it how it is because I don't give a shit. But the reality is, when you're making these arguments, this is the forum and the way to say it. Yeah, fuck the VA, fuck the system, fuck all
Yep.
that. Got it. Get out your system. But when it's time to rebut, leave all that emotion aside.
Yeah.
And I'm being very clear here. There's a way to argue things, right? So the reason I'm saying F this, F that is because you have to get it out of your system. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
oh, why did you get denied? Because they didn't. No, 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 no. Facts are facts. You have a
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis for PTSD. I went to be seen for a condition. I was exposed to certain things, and what happened was a different examination. The examiner did not look at my triggers,
Yep.
did not look at what happened in the event, did not look at what I'm dealing with, and instead belittled my condition and tried to write me off as if
Yes.
though I was
Yes.
another number because they may have had other appointments. State
Yes.
the facts. You have to argue the exam. One question that came up
Mm-hmm.
is why are certain CMPs a certain way? You have to attack the examination, not the examiner.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
examination. Because it's easy to say, well, they didn't listen
Mm-hmm.
to me. And no one cares about that. You fight facts. I came to the VA to file a claim for my knee. That examiner spent the entire time talking about his life and wouldn't even let me talk, and there was no range of motion. Because no range of motion was done, that's the examination argument. Not just the fact that I had a disagreement with the person. Yes, it will feel great to be able to punch somebody in the throat in the C&P exam. It accomplishes
Mm-hmm.
nothing. You have to understand how to fight the facts here. If I'm going for a mental health examination, you have to be able to assess one, what I'm dealing with, what my situation was, what caused it, and what are my symptoms today. You ask none of those questions. So how
Right.
exactly are you assessing me? Attack
Yep.
the exam, not the examiner. You can get it out
Yep.
with your friends and your family and say, yeah, F the system and F that. And I get it, right? It's good to be able to get it out. But when you're making your complaint, you don't call the VA and say, F this. No, 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 no. You have got to be calculated and attack the
Mm-hmm.
exam. The
Yeah.
examiner was not prepared. I got there. They did not know what form it was. They were late. They did not ask questions. I'm there for a condition that required range of motion. They did not do said range of motion. They did not pull out a gynometer to see what my full range of motion was. The doctor said they've been doing this forever and they can eyeball it. You're not going to jeopardize my claim
Yep.
based off your eyeballing something. I saw no notes being taken. I saw that person ask no questions, literally 5 minutes in there, and they made the assumption on something that appears to be like I was a number and I was rushed. The person was late. Those are the facts that you have to be able to push back on.
Yep.
So, yes, get it out. Yes, get all that frustration out. But once that's done, attack the facts. You're there for a mental health condition exam. Were those questions asked? You're there for a physical condition exam. Was a physical condition examination done in some shape, fashion, or form? Those are the facts.
Right.
Leave out all the
Exactly.
emotion. Like, yes, get it out. Yes, let's go ahead and rally around and freaking scream and shout and do all that crap. But when it comes time to make the rebuttal, facts. Because then in turn, what you have is, irrational veteran who made no sense, made nothing of it. The reality is that if you were there for a condition for range of motion, it's not about, oh, he talked too much. No, there was no range of motion done.
Right.
I was there for a range of motion exam that did not happen. That's the reality. I was there for this condition. I was there for this condition or that condition that did not happen. Attack the exam, not the examiner. That would be the biggest tip that I would give.
And unfortunately, I helped him formulate a HLR that I thought was really good. We had a really great argument, and then he just decided he doesn't have it in him anymore. He's not going to go through that again. And that's where I go back to the beginning of don't give up. I mean, sometimes they get it wrong, but sometimes they get it right too. So hopefully he'll come around, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Mark actually asked a question earlier, and about why he would not have a C&P exam in his case.
Mm-hmm.
So Mark was going for mental health, and quite frankly, I mean, I believe I believe the C&P exam is one of those things that they're pretty much obligated to provide you, right? My brain is not necessarily firing on all cylinders at the second, but
they can't deny you without a C&P if they deny you based on the evidence that you submitted.
and this is the fact that you're going from zero. So in other words, the fact that you don't even have a service connection yet, they have to be able to gather the evidence. Now, you can submit evidence, but when we're talking about, particularly when we're talking about mental health, and let's just say that we're talking about PTSD, the VA is obligated to do their assessment, to do their exam, because they can't rate just based off of a private provider in that case. So sometimes they just don't do their job. And I've had a buddy who also had a PTSD claim that didn't get a C&P exam the first time, and that was a pretty quick designation of a duty to assist error or an error on appeal.
That's actually a good point there. So duty to assist, people may see that when you file a claim and there's an error, right? They may note a duty to assist. There are instances where the VA can do an ACE, acceptable, credible medical evidence to be able to make a determination and say, you know what, we're not going to call you in. You have all your care at the VA. We have all the records that we need. It's plain as day that what you have is what you have, and they can make a decision on that. But if they deny you for something without calling you in and have no basis to make the assumption, you have the ability to appeal that. So it sucks at times, but the way I would tell anybody, Amy talked about instant gratification. You have to consider any conversation with the VA as a boxing match. The reason you talk to people, your VSO, you work with people like us, or whatever the case may be, and again, to put context, you've partnered with VA Claims Insider, we've worked with veterans. I've been working with veterans for the better part of 3+ years. There's thousands of veterans that we've worked with in some shape, fashion, or form. So it's not just here saying, hey, this is something we just read yesterday. Like, no, this is, we've been exposed to this space for quite a while, and work with accredited folks and all kinds of things. So that's the disclaimer there. Again, do your due diligence, reach out to someone that, you want to work with. This is information, 3 vets having a conversation. There's the whole, disclaimer piece there. That said, when it comes to, this concept of going to the VA, the fact is sometimes it's convoluted. And if you don't know what you're doing, you have to look at this like a boxing match. The reason you go to your VSO, you walk with somebody, you're finding an accredited agent, and talk to whatever you choose to do, right? Talk to us, talk to somebody else, do your diligence, do YouTube searches, whatever. Do your homework, prepare for what's going to happen, know what you're claiming, know your story, know your truth. All these different things are required because the reality is you may get a 1 round knockout, but sometimes you may have to go for a few rounds. You may have to go for more than one condition or one situation. So the reality is sometimes it's going to take more than one effort at this. So sometimes it's a 12 round fight. You might get. I've known veterans who filed for a condition, they got denied. Went for a higher level, they got denied. Got new evidence, went for supplemental, got denied. Went for a higher level, then they got approved. Same condition, same evidence. It just was on the wrong desk. They got the wrong information. That happens. But I'll tell you that back to the intent to file, if you're listening to this, wherever you may be, whether live on the replay, and you're thinking of filing a claim, go into the system and say, I want to file a claim. Call the 800 number, 800-827-1000. Go to va.gov, set up your account, go to the VSO office, go to the VA itself. File, just say you want to start a claim. That starts a time. Because if it takes you 365 days to file said claim and you file it on the very last day, that time ticker is going. And let's say the VA takes another 6 months to get to you, or they deny you and you go back and forth. I've seen veterans who literally have got back pay for 2, 3, 4 years. I know veterans who've got back pay for 10 years. I know veterans who've got north of $200,000 in back pay because the fact that they literally got finally their award all the way back to 2009 for 70% of mental health. Do the math, right? That's the reality, right? And the reality is quality of life, like Chevis said, right? How does this affect your life? How does this affect your work? There are different things that people are dealing with. I can name you 5 people right now who should not be working, but they're just trying to stick through it to get to that retirement, to get to that point. Because if I don't have this job, how do I pay for my bills? You're lying to yourself. You're like 3 infractions, 1 infraction from getting fired, 1 bad news from probably becoming a statistic. People are dealing with stuff. And this whole facade of I'm not going to file a claim is BS. Get over it. Some folks need to just stop. You're dealing with stuff. It's okay to not be okay. You've served, so file your claim. Because the fact is you're dealing with things. Like, don't tell me everything is fine. Look, you got divorced. You got fired. You're dealt with all these different things. Something is going on that you're dealing with. So, moral of the story is, be prepared to go the distance. If they don't call you for C&P, there are administrative errors. There's a duty to assist. That means that they didn't do what they should have done, so you have the ability to have them then chime in and fix some of that. So without getting into specifics, to the question that Mark put up, right, that does happen. It's not uncommon where they may not call you in for a condition there. So let's see. Let's see. Some other questions that came up.
While you're pulling those up, or while you're scanning that, so Naomi did provide that there is a scenario where they may not ask for a C&P exam if they don't believe, if you're filing for PTSD and there's no demonstrable evidence of the stressor, they can't prove that through any of the records. That may be a case. Now, whenever you're talking about MST and personal assault, because they really fall under the same umbrella, those, I believe, are obligated to give you a C&P exam for those specific types of stressors. But yeah, just have to make sure that you've got your ducks in a row, and that you document all of the information, all the elements about your situation, the context about your service that relates to the claim and how it supports it.
Yeah, so let's dive into that for a second. So when you're going to file a claim specifically for something that happened, right? So PTSD as a whole is very different than other conditions. You are saying something happened that stamped an event, a stressor in life. And because of that, now I am dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. Hence, traumatic event, post-traumatic, right? What was said event? So when you're filing that claim, there are some things that have to happen. Someone can just say this happened, this happened, this happened, and the VA says nope, that's not how this works, and they may not call you in. So in that to elaborate or expand on that, if we look at this form here, there are certain things you're going to have to be able to talk about, right? So literally, I am saying, right, that on August 1st of 2007, this incident occurred in, let's just say here, Balad, Iraq. And while there, I was assigned to the 123, Ready Brigade or what have you. And then what happened? En route from point A to point B, the things that happened were this: 5 injured, blah blah blah, IED, etc., or whatever the case may be. Because of said situation, I was awarded a this that medal, if that applies, right? Be a Purple Heart or whatever the case may be, or heroism or something, whatever the case may be, whatever is around that, right? So that's one form there. Then from there, there may be a continuation of were there any persons who were injured or killed? Yes, Private Snuffy, Private so-and-so, who was there on said convoy, he passed away. So all these details are needed because there's going to be a cross reference of said things. Now, some of these things may not be available depending on what it is. So that's when you're looking at military sexual trauma. It's a different conversation. Now, if you're saying, hey, while in convoy from point A to point B, or on this helicopter we were shot, whatever the situation, there is an entire registry of things you're going to look into. So having this information submitted with your claim is going to be key because they're going to go ahead and cross-reference stuff. Yes, there was an event that happened to this that effect, whatever case may be. So there are instances where you do have administrative failures where a veteran doesn't know. They just file a claim unbeknownst to them that, hey, you need to be able to provide some details. You need to be able to talk about a little bit of what exactly kind of happened. Even if it's kind of, well, look, this happened in Vietnam. It's the summer of, 67. Okay, fine. Give as much information as you can to be able to at least tell said story, because they need to have that to be able to corroborate, the event that may have happened. And even if, let's say, they don't call you for the C&P, they'll tell you on the denial letter why they denied it. You know what I mean? If it's simply the fact that, hey, the event or lacking information or whatever case may be, if you get denied or you don't see the answer you want, don't just rip up the paper. Literally look at the rationale, because here's another one. You may well get a denial that is completely off. Brian Lofton applied for a claim. His claim was for PTSD, and guess what? He was denied because he had full range of motion on his left leg. I'm sorry, what? I'm going to file for, Amy is filing for a claim for her knee, and in her rejection letter, it says the documentation doesn't show she has erectile dysfunction. And I'm saying, if it might sound tongue in cheek, but there are instances where some of these denials are cut and paste, and you're like, wait a second, I filed for a mental health condition. Who's talking about knees? I am a woman. What are you talking about erectile dysfunction? It might sound crazy, but trust me, the things that will be in some letters are completely off. Or even in the first part of the letter, you'll see all the evidence submitted, and it may have omitted things that you submitted. Where are my doctor's records? Where are my sworn statements? Where are the things that I wanted you to evaluate that's not being listed as evidence for said condition? And these things are crucial because, again, if you go back to the CFR specifically, that information, whatever it is that you are submitting, they have to look at that. They have to consider the information that is submitted for said claim. So you have to know what your rights are, because not just saying, hey, I'm not going to pay attention into all this stuff. Like, no, there are rules and laws in place that says you have to pay attention to what I'm providing. You don't have to make a decision, VA, completely based off what I've submitted, but you can't ignore things either. So specifically to the PTSD side, there are instances where some things may be lacking because you're specifically saying something happened, and because of that, now PTSD is part of the things that you may be dealing with, and that has to be part of the argument, specifically when you're talking to that. Now, conversely, if you're looking at a personal assault or a condition that's different, there's another form, which is a 781 alpha. And this one here, as you see, specifically is saying post-traumatic secondary to personal assault. It could be nature of military sexual trauma, or an assault that happened, not sexual in nature, but it was an assault of sorts, which may not have, obviously, more information, what they're looking at here then are other things, right? So what is the stressful incident? When did it happen? What dates were you in said unit? When, location, what have you? A description of said event, and then from there, any other sources of information that may be available. That's it. And if you notice here, it's a different form, because here, if we're looking at a PTSD, old school, regular, something happened, you're asking now for some details of the incident, who passed away, what happened, because you're saying there was something catastrophic or life threatening, right? You feared for your life in some shape, fashion, or form. So the form here specifically looks at a claim support, form for support for a PTSD claim. If you're looking at the 7081 alpha, it's looking at now what are the details that you may have. And again, this could happen on duty, off duty, on the way to work, whatever the case situation may be. This is the form that has to be used for that. So you have to make sure that the forms that you're using to file your claim are correct. If you're filing a claim for military sexual assault, it's really a PTSD claim. You're just saying that the cause of said PTSD mental condition is MST, right? Or a personal assault, or something where you were waterboarded, or hey, you were a minority and you were put in like, there's a lot of things that we have seen that may have happened in service, whatever that may be, that assault, whatever the nature of it. This is the form that you would use, and you see what it's asking you. Without said form, you're going to have a hard time being considered, because they have to go through some of the checks of, okay, did you satisfy the requirements for us to start looking into this? Then the claim will go to the specialist who deals with those conditions. Specifically, when you look at like an MST situation, or you look at PTSD, those go to a specific section where they're going to start looking at that, doing some due diligence to look at the details there. So that's two forms there when it comes to that form. Hopefully that kind of expands a little bit there, and that's what we wanted to have, like a Q&A session to be able to answer that. Could a rated lump chronic pain with PTSD? So when you're looking at chronic pain, before we would call it chronic pain. Today it can be seen or dubbed as somatic symptom disorder. Same, for example, you have chronic pain, something's happening physically that's causing a psychological reaction, or vice versa. You can have a psychological reaction condition that's causing a physical reaction, right? So that's what that means, somatic symptom disorder, SSD. Pyramiding, when you look at the VA, there's certain things they're going to be looking at. So the issue with pyramiding is they don't want to say, for example, or they may not be able to differentiate one condition from the other. What that means is when you look at something like this, right? And let's go over again to the law, because it's not just us talking here. Same form, right? So that's 414 here, specifically avoidance of pyramiding. And the reason I'm saying this is because the evaluation of the same disability under various diagnoses is to be avoided. A disability from injuries from muscle, nerves, joint extremities may overlap to a great extent, so that special rules are included for the appropriate body system evaluation. So long story short, what this is saying here is you don't want to have different diagnoses overlapping. So you can have chronic pain and, let's say, PTSD and anxiety and depression, multiple diagnoses. But how that manifests for that person might show in different ways. So let's say, for example, right here for mental health disorder, how they rate this mental health diagnosis criteria, it's all factoring in all the mental health conditions. So if it's PTSD, anxiety, we have SSD, chronic pain, all those things are looked at as symptoms here. The difference being down here, the rating criteria for eating disorders. Eating disorders are being rated different. But looking specifically at chronic pain and PTSD, if the symptoms that you're having here, they're not going to be able to differentiate. If, let's say, specifically here, let's look at some of these symptoms at the 50 range. You have occupational and social impairment that are showing themselves through these effects here. Flattened effect, stereotyped speech, panic attacks that are more than once a week, difficulty in understanding complex understanding, impairment of short-term, long-term memory, impaired abstract thinking, disturbance of mood, difficulty establishing and maintaining effective relationship. Difficulty here, and up here it says inability. There's a difference in the 70 range to the 50 range. Inability to maintain effective relationships, difficulty. Words mean things, right? There's a difference between I have a hard time making friends and doing stuff and maintaining relationships to, hey, look, this is the fourth divorce. I can't keep a job. I can't keep a wife. I can't have issues. My kids don't want to talk to me. You have an inability. We're past having a hard time. If you don't tell those details, guess what? You're stuck at 50. Words mean things, and you have to understand that. Here specifically, when it comes to mental health, it's so complex because people get stuck in this part here. Look at this word, such as. Let's look at, what this is saying. Look at this little here, crazy English, you know, funny thing. This is and or. Everyone thinks this means and. No, nowhere in here does it say you must have all these things. It specifically says, not DP talking, this is the law. It says specifically occupational and social impairment with deficiencies in most areas, such as work, school, family, judgment, thinking, or mood. And then from there, it begins to look at with symptoms, right? As suicidal ideation and or obsessional rituals and or every time you see this it's and or it's not and because this concept that I have to have all these symptoms in there. Where does it say that? Go back to basic English, understand what this is saying, and understand also what words mean. Symptoms as these. Understand what it's saying where it says here such as. Because it may not be that this specifically is what you're dealing with, but it's in that realm. Can you articulate those issues that you're dealing with, whatever they may be? What is that obsessional ritual which interferes with your daily activity of living? What is that neglect of personal hygiene? Whatever it may be. So now that you have that concept, is that related to your anxiety, your chronic pain, or your PTSD? So, all that to say that yes, the VA can sit there and say, you know what? In DP's case, you'd have PTSD and chronic pain, and we're lumping that together. You're rated at 70%. We can't differentiate if this symptom is related to PTSD or that symptom is related to depression or this symptom is related to major depressive disorder or generalized anxiety disorder or somatic symptom disorder, right? So that's where you'll see that because avoiding pyramiding is they're not going to rate you for two different things. It's very rare they'll do that. So when they lump it together, it's because it's two mental health conditions. Again, the difference here being if we're looking at something different, like an eating disorder, right? That's a whole different conversation, right? And that's a whole different concept. So when it comes to mental health, specifically, what they're looking at is are these conditions things that can be looked in here? And again, this list is exhaustive, but you may have a variety of different things, such as schizophrenia, such as delusional disorder, such as major or mild neurological disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, panic disorder, unspecified anxiety disorder, somatic symptom. Oh, the ones I just said. Look at it right there. Oh, DP,
There it
what's
is.
this chronic pain thing that you're talking about? It's right there. I didn't write this stuff. It's in the law. Somatic symptom disorder is something. But I went to C&P and the examiner said that doesn't exist. Well, here, numbnuts, it's in the daggone law. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And
again,
that
if you
does
don't know,
happen, folks.
I mean, these are the things that you have to look at: bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, unspecified depressive disorder, chronic adjustment disorder. You left service, you have some adjustment disorder. That adjustment disorder now becomes chronic, now becomes depression. These things can morph into different things. Many folks may have various different diagnoses for their mental health conditions. So if you understand this, this helps to be able to understand how that goes. So to the question, yeah, they can lump it together because they may not be able to differentiate and to avoid pyramiding. This is part of what they look at, when they're making decisions at the VA. I hope that answers your question. And he says Amy is awesome, by the way. Let's see.
Amy is awesome.
He said, "You guys are awesome."
Let's see. Shaky says,
We just read between the lines.
yeah, pretty much. We know where it's going. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm glad that we did this. We haven't done this for a long time. We haven't really talked about C&P or claims, and we got to get back to doing that every once in a while. So, and if you guys have questions, you can email us, and then we can address them on Friday Night Live too. I know some people don't like typing it in the chat or whatever, which is totally fine if you email us and we can address it. A lot of times you have the same question that other people have. A lot of times you guys when DP is pulling up these questions, they're questions that we answer through the week regularly.
Yeah.
So,
and here's a good one too. So Terry asked, my C&P was today for PTSD. Looking back, taking a breath, I did feel rushed, but the examiner did ask a laundry list of symptoms, so I'm hoping it will be good in outcome. And so there's another part here too, right? So there's a difference between I was rushed in like 5 minutes, get out of here, we're done, and a difference of saying, look, Brian, I hear you. Trust me, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know PTSD when I see it. I got it. You know what I mean? There's a difference where someone's saying, hey, look, we don't have to sit here for 2 hours talking. I
Hmm.
got it. I see your notes. I see your treatment records and all the stuff that you're dealing with there. That's something that is definitely happening. You know what I'm saying? So those are things for sure that can be looked at. Um, there. So really take it with the context there. But if you feel, like I said, in any shape, fashion, or form that you were rushed, belittled, not listened to, you want to walk out of there knowing, like, look, I did my job. I put it all on the line,
Yep.
and there's nothing there. And the examiner may say, hey, I got it. And you're trying to maybe
Hmm.
go into detail with every single thing, like, Amy, I got it. You know what I mean? I don't need to hear everything else because here's the reality when you look back, especially, and again, a whole deep dive can happen just on symptoms alone, which is a whole nother conversation. But when it comes to this, if you had a C&P and you literally are able to articulate a variety of symptoms at the 100% range or 70, wherever you're at, there's no need to keep talking about things below this. If
Right.
you articulated all your symptoms as a psychologist, as the examiner, trust me, they're not going to sit there and try to go down the list because that's not how that works. You're
Well,
able
and
to look at
also
things and say, okay, look, these things, obviously, if you're here, all these things are kind of lumped up into the top part.
Also, if you're going for an increase and you're already at 50%, you don't need to talk about those 0 to 50. You need to talk about that 70 to 100. Or if you're
Mhm.
already at 70, you don't need to talk about 0 to 70. They already know that if it's a stressor that's been conceded, okay, how have your symptoms have gotten worse?
Hmm.
That's what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
And Terry actually mentioned something that's very important, something that we always recommend after a C&P exam, and that's writing a memorandum for record and adding that to your claim and doing that
Yes,
like
sir.
right
Yep.
away. I
Hmm.
mean, as soon as you're done with that, within that day or so, you want to get that in there before the claim is closed and the decision is made. Because, and what a memorandum for record is like DP said earlier, you don't want to go to the VA and state things in emotional terms because that's just okay. Somebody's upset. Something that didn't happen the way they wanted it to or were expecting it to. Nice Johnny. Now move on and take your meds. But if you use a memorandum for record or you're talking to the VA and you just objectively outline how that exam went, how long were you in there? If you went for a
Yep.
mental health exam and you were only in there for 5 minutes, that's a red flag.
Hmm.
Uh, you know,
Yes.
what was the attitude of the examiner? Did they use the proper tools? If you're doing a range of motion, did they use the goniometer? Um, so you're wanting to really outline the the exam from your perspective and get that on the record. Because if you come back and the rating decision is not what you were looking for or expecting based off of your symptoms and the evidence that you submitted, well, if you spoke to the examiner about, we just talked about mental health, if you spoke to them about persistent delusions and hallucinations in your own words, and intermittent inability to perform activities of daily living, well, then why did they rate you at 30% or 50%, um, saying that you didn't have the symptoms
Yep.
at the higher rate? So all of this documentation is evidence that goes towards supporting not only the claim that you have in flight, but potentially for an appeal if the decision comes back either denying service connection or maybe they grant you service connection, but they rate you just way too low. So that's definitely a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, Terry, for sure.
Yeah.
One of
He's
the
awesome. He's been so involved in his claim, which is amazing because not all clients are as involved, and he has been on it. He's been
mhm.
definitely on his claim, so
One of the biggest
good
things,
for him.
as we start to wrap up here, the majority of veterans who have some kind of rating for mental health tend to always kind of hover at the 30% range, because everyone here, if you ask them, hey, what are you dealing with? I'm sure if you know a veteran or you are a veteran or you've been asked a question, you've probably said something to the effect of, yeah, you deal with depression, anxiety, you have some panic attacks, you have some sleep issues, some issues here and there, and sometimes you have, the suspiciousness. You've said nothing. You've
Yep.
neglected to talk about your inability to have effective relationships. You neglect to talk about all the other things that you're dealing with. So when I say, for example, hey, are these some things that you may have? Do you have, have you neglected your personal hygiene? Do you not
Hmm.
care anymore? Have you had suicidal ideations? Do you have, issues with this or that or whatever? Yeah, 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 yeah. Did you say that to C&P? No. What did you talk about? Well, he gets it, right? Depression, anxiety. I check the doors, check locks. You've said nothing. And that vagueness is why a majority of veterans sit at 30%. Because guess what? A lot of you
Right.
all can literally talk about all these symptoms. And guess what? This is the law. But just because you can Google this, it doesn't mean you walk in and say,
Yeah.
hey, doctor, I have neglect of personal hygiene and I have, the inability to establish a relation. What does that mean? Talk about the 3 divorces you had. Talk about the legal infractions. Talk about the jobs you lost. Talk about the reality of what's going on. Talk about the fact that your wife has to scream at you to stop doing that thing you're doing that's making you neglect reality. Talk about what's happening, not just because you did a good Google search and you can rattle this stuff off. I can tell you and rattle off all these symptoms top of my head. It means nothing. Talk
Hmm.
about how that applies to you. What is that in your life? What does that look like? Um, because that's really part of this. It's nice that you can Google something, but can you put words behind these things? These are buckets of are these things that you're dealing with. And for many veterans, you just don't tell your truth because you don't want to put yourself out there. And guess what? You're not talking about how this affects things. Because again, look at this. We're talking about occupational and social impairment. That means work, and it also means your life. It means all those instances with your family and the things that you just don't want to be a part of, things that you're dealing with, things that are bothering, whatever that may be. Social, such as work, school, family relations, judgment, mood. These are all things that have to be factored in, not just because you had a job issue only, right? So some things to think about there for sure that I think are worth kind of touching on. So these are some things that for sure, like I said, from time to time we do touch on it. So, we'll kind of come back and talk about some of these things as questions do pop up for sure. Lamont Hunter says, Amy, interesting. Good information there.
Oh
So
my
Lamont is here.
gosh, he's the best. Hi, Lamont. So his wife is active duty. She's anesthesiologist, and I am so excited. They're awesome. So I'm super excited. He's a really cool guy. Hi,
Yeah.
Lamont. Thanks for joining. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So so again, switching around some of these things that we'll be doing, we'll advertise some of the changes and things that we'll be showing moving forward. So more to follow there. Let's see here. Oh, wait a second. We have someone jumping into the room all the way from Jamaica.
What?
Oh, oh my gosh, she
It's
is
the
here
bird
to
lady.
liven up the party. Look, we have been watching you all week. We got a smile at a DP for seeing you.
Mm.
Right, DP? Um, welcome, Jess. Oh, you're
Uh
muted.
oh.
We
Oh,
can't hear you.
we can't hear you. Oh, nope, nope. You're not muted either. It must be the whole Jamaican Wi-Fi or something. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on over there. No,
Did
we
you get
cannot.
that Wi-Fi translated? No, I'm just
Disconnect
kidding.
your Bluetooth from your.
Yeah,
Disconnect
because
your
your volume's
Bluetooth.
up, but we can't. We definitely cannot hear you.
I wonder if she can hear us. Oh, there's Jay. Wow, Jay made an
Why do you guys
appearance
have headsets in?
halfway.
That's the part I guess that doesn't work. Let's see. Try. So go back out, come back in, and we'll see if the audio works there.
So
But they
Jay and
are.
Jess are like our biggest supporters too. They're always here, and they joined us from Jamaica, and we've been watching them on their water
There you
slide
go.
singing. Oh, there they are.
Hey, we
Jay,
hear him
what's
now.
up? Oh
What's
my
up, people?
gosh.
There it is.
There he is.
Jay, hold on. It is June 4th at 9:25, and Jay has blessed us with his self.
Mm-hmm.
for the second time ever.
Literally,
What?
play that lotto number.
We've got both J's on the video here.
Yes. What's up, Jess?
Hi guys.
Jess, guess what I have on right now?
Do you have your Foscaras?
I do. I do. Thank you for the
Hey,
recommendation.
and I do want you to know that for Mother's Day, I got one of your beauty recommendations, one of those face massagers for my wife. Of course, she's kind of looking at it, going, "What is this thing?" So, it's a work in progress, but good advice. Good advices.
Yes.
Good
We need to have
advices.
you back on to do a Father's Day one. Father's Day is right around the corner. We got to do a Father's Day one. Look at you. You're looking so tan.
Mm-hmm. She says
That's
she's
what
so
happens.
sunburnt that she can't even sit on a chair.
That's what
Oh,
happens
I
when you
was
when you
wondering.
when
You
you
were
want to
looking
lay on
pretty
the beach
red.
for hours.
You were looking pretty red. Yeah.
Yes.
But girl, I didn't know you could sing. Oh my gosh, we can be sisters. We can sing together.
Wait.
No, negative.
I saw her sing. I haven't seen you sing yet.
Because that's
Mm-mm-mm.
because I'm gonna sing with Jess.
Let me tell you, it took all of me to do
That
She
was
said it
awesome.
took all of her to do that, and by all of her, it meant her and the libations as well.
Yes.
She had to get the
I
spirit
love
inside of
it.
her.
She had to drink her muscle relaxant.
Mm-hmm.
that. I did. And I had a few shots in me and a couple drinks. And I was nervous as heck going on that stage to sing in front of other people.
You killed it, girl.
That
You really
you
did.
did.
It
And
was
And I
like
love
air
the water
guitar. I was like,
slide.
it's a wrap.
You know, it's so weird because you hear about these people going on like they're going on their vacations and you want to watch them. And so when we get to see it, it's so exciting to be like, "Oh my gosh, look at them. Look at what they're doing. They're swimming with the dolphins." That's my dream. That's my goal, life goal. I told you guys that, both of you. That's what
mm-hmm.
I want to do. That's awesome.
No,
It's cool to see you guys. Thank you for sharing your vacation with us.
I tried.
There she is.
You know,
there she is.
Wow.
no, the best part was
She is up on stage.
And she can sing. She sounds good.
My whole thing is she had the whole like, hey, had the whole crowd
Yes, she did.
get up in here, do a thing, jump in there.
Have you done one?
I'm just wondering when are they going to book you for the next show?
Mm-hmm. That's what she said.
Was that Guns N' Roses you were singing? Oh man, that's awesome.
The guy in the background screaming loud definitely was Jay making noise for sure.
That is awesome. Good for
that was
you.
listen, it was my birthday and he went and signed me up for this karaoke thing and I was like, I can't do it. I did like the rehearsal part of it and then the rehearsal part I was shaking like a leaf and then I said, no, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't. He was like, all right, then I'm gonna tell the girl that you can't do it. Well, the girls were trying to find it and they're like, no, you have to do it. So literally told the right to chord. So then I said to them, I said, well, we're gonna have you do this for love. Then I need some like major shots because I'm not doing
But as one was singing,
Happy
yep.
birthday!
Thank you.
So yeah, they were
Yeah.
documenting their whole.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
That's been awesome. Happy birthday.
the music is wrong. And from there, I was like, all right, I'm good.
Well,
And
That
hey,
thanks
over.
for jumping in
yeah,
and saying hi to us. This is awesome. And thank you for supporting us all the way in Jamaica.
yeah.
Always.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is the part like, all right, guys, thanks. And where's the waiter at? Bring me another one of those
Oh,
concoctions.
I'm looking around. I'm trying to wave somebody down around here.
We've seen you
Like
moving your hands the whole time. It wasn't saying hi to us.
Are you guys sleeping at all? Do you guys sleep? What time is it there?
uh, 10:30.
It's an hour behind.
Oh, you're Central
Okay.
Time.
Hmm. There you go. Well,
Okay.
you guys enjoy
Nice,
and get
nice.
back to the
Yeah.
fun.
Yes.
And
We will see you guys, and we will speak to you guys soon. You guys stay up and keep
Yes.
doing that good thing you guys do.
yeah,
Yes.
uh, Jay is
Thanks
not
for
sitting
joining,
down.
guys.
He definitely fell down. So they figured they'd tune in. He's
Yeah.
not. He's
Yes, we
laying down
love
because he
you
fell down.
guys. Thank
Love you
Okay,
you.
we love you
guys.
guys. So,
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty.
That was cool.
So VA claims, questions and answers, C&P preps, heroic actions, questions, drop in from Jamaica, definitely making us all feel less Caribbean and sunny right now. Brian and I feel definitely out of touch with the suntan, so we're feeling pale right now for sure. Um,
Yes.
but uh, more to follow. We have some cool things coming up, some connections that we've made. So we're obviously, having mental, PTSD awareness month. So we're talking with some specialists. We're going to be bringing on some amazing people, specifically uh, some of the folks that we met through our Creator First program with the Youth
Yes.
House event. So we'll have Roderick Martin from ufology. He is a MUFON certified investigator on all things disclosure and UFOs. So we're going to have him come in and talk about disclosures, UFOs, and some of the things that are going on there. Because what folks fail to realize is that when it comes to a lot of that space, whatever you fall, whatever you may believe, the reality is that it's usually held in some kind of military facility, cantonment area, or something, which means there are veterans that may have been exposed to things or around things or seen things and haven't been able to talk about those things. And I think that there's a conversation to be had for veterans um, who may have been exposed to things that they could never talk about. We've talked about PTSD, we've talked about MST, but what about those veterans who couldn't talk about things because maybe they were classified? So I think there's conversations to be had there. If you look at the news, things have been disclosed and shared and all these different things. So I think those will be some interesting conversations to be had. So definitely stay tuned for some of the things that we have
Yes.
going on. The summertime is kicking in, so we're going to kind of reset gears to the point that Brian mentioned and Amy mentioned. We're also doing some work with Amazon in the influencer program there. So we did something for Mother's Day, and we'll be doing something for Father's Day. Prime Day is coming as well. So one of the things that we have is our access to Amazon's influencer program. And that means we have the ability to go live on Amazon specifically and talk about products and different things like that. So you'll see us, talking about a variety of different things. Before we kind of did things a certain way, but you'll see us talk a little about the entrepreneur side, the claim side, and some other things, cryptocurrencies, financial investments. So there's a lot of things that we haven't really kind of got into the weeds on that we'll start to really kind of go there. So you may see a shift in some of the things we do, and that's just exploring different things. So if you like some of the things that we're doing, again, subscribe, share, get involved in some of the things that we're doing. But when we're not doing this, and there are different things that we do, whether it be investments, cryptocurrencies. These are things that we've been involved in and are aware of. I've been in that space for quite a while, so I know now it's the craze and everybody wants to talk about it. Talk to me about those things 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? So for
Yeah.
those of us that have been in that space, right, it's like, okay, I'm glad everybody's talking about it again. But do you understand, what a cryptocurrency is? What's the blockchain? What's the technology? And the fad, the get rich quick schemes and scams that are happening. So there's a
Mm.
lot of conversations to be had. Conventional investments, regular investments, how to be savvy about that, businesses, different things that we do. So those are conversations that I think are great to be had to be able to share with other veterans because the reality is you may have an idea or you may have something you might want to look into and we might have the ability to share something that helps you along that journey. Not everybody's an entrepreneur, not everybody's a worker. Whatever it is you may want to do, there may be something that may be useful there. So So more to follow on that, but definitely some interesting things down the road. But you'll see a shift in some of the things that we'll share. So stay tuned. If there's some things that you're interested and want to hear about or see us do, you see the videos that we put down, interact, right? Show us, ask
Mhm.
questions, and we're definitely looking to create information and content based off of what people are asking. So based off what the questions and needs are, is where we'll shift what we're doing. So if the questions are going towards the entrepreneur side, then we'll talk about that because we do business and investments and different things. If the conversation goes to the claim side, then we'll talk about that because that's the questions that are coming up. So we're agile to talk about different things. So fuck the algorithm. We'll answer the questions and do what we got to do and kind of go from there. So, that's kind of how I look at that. So I appreciate everyone who has supported us in what we've been doing and how we've been doing it. There'll be some changes going forward just to be able to kind of be a little more dynamic and true to what we want to do. So I use that kind of tongue in cheek to a degree, right? So it's past 10 o'clock, so kids should be sleeping, but fuck the algorithm. I'm going to talk about what the fuck I want to talk about, how I want to talk about it, and if you don't like it, you can not listen to it. I don't, I just look at things a little bit different. So, sometimes being on this side, you get stuck in the whole, like, we have to do it this way, we have to do it that way. I don't have to do anything. So, and I
Nope.
choose to be able to just create and do things that make sense to people and align with what we were doing. So whether it be Jess coming up and being able to share what she's doing, or talking and promoting other veterans in certain spaces, we want to do that. So I just want to extend gratitude to those folks that have supported us along the way and have been with us there. And as we kind of shift gears a little bit, it's more kind of getting in line to the things that make sense to us, because sadly in the veteran space sometimes things, it's not very catchy to certain people. So it's also realizing what does make sense and what is serving the need, not what we think. So we ask the question of what do you guys want to see and what not, and we'll see from there how all that goes. But a lot to be discussed, but definitely I am grateful to those that were able to support, and those new things that will come up. We'll see how that goes. So, a lot of cool things to happen there. Um, like I said, I don't have much of a filter, and I'm gonna probably make a point to not have much of that going forward. So, I promise to probably just keep that to after 10 o'clock. But you know, the but yeah, again, so that's basically what I would say for that. I was definitely disappointed with how some of the things did not go. Because I felt that you know to the show that wasn't picked up, it would have been great to highlight amazing veterans that are doing amazing things. And sometimes you do stuff to try to fit in a box and do it in a certain way, and they may not pay attention to that, or they may have not liked that. So I'm of the mindset of, hey, we're gonna go ahead and do things uh, our way, the best way we can to serve our veterans, how we feel that we can serve them. So that's really kind of the direction that we'll start looking into it. So, there'll be other iterations of things that we'll do. But, like I said, I am grateful to the support that we've had. It's just now time to kind of reset and take some time. So, like I said, there'll be changes coming. So, when people ask, like, oh, what's going on? What's the change going on? I'm like, it's a reset. And like I said, my disappointment is more with the system, and what's cliche-ish and faddish at times, because it is what it is. I don't want to market shit. I don't want to sell shit. I don't want to be here like, hey guys, sign up for this thing and you get two free things. Fuck that noise. I don't want to do those things. So I will be my authentic self, and sometimes I'm gonna say fuck that thing. And you know what? Those that rock with us, and our tribe will be attracted by our vibe. And those that want to get bamboozled and lied to, they can go forth and buy into those things. But we're not gonna, put ourselves in a situation to do something that's not genuine to who we are. So even tonight, right? Talked about claims, talked about stuff. People pay for these things. People don't know these things, and if we could give service, then that's the biggest thing that we want to go ahead and do, for sure. So Lamont definitely agrees with us and says, great stuff here. Fuck the algorithm. That's the hashtag of the night. Fuck the algorithm and all that shit that comes with it. So we'll do it our way. And that is my closing arguments. So, above all things, gratitude again for those that supported us, and those that don't understand us, they'll get it later. Over to you, Brian.
I can't help it, DP. My mind is just distorted. But when you started talking, one of the things that popped into my head was Ethel Merman. I just gotta be me. But uh, Yeah, I'm not going to do karaoke anytime soon, so don't worry about it. But no, you know, I just, you know, DP and Amy. I mean, these guys are, as much family to me as anybody that is connected to me by blood. And so I just love spending the time with them, and I just love the intention that we have to help support. But I'm really excited about the variety of things that we're going to be moving into and kind of expanding into that we really haven't done much into yet. We may have touched on some things very lightly in the past, but I think you're gonna. I think you're gonna like the variety that you're gonna see. And but to DP's point, we would appreciate your input if you have questions. If you're curious about cryptocurrency, for example, because DP happens to be an expert on that, and I know enough about it to be dangerous, which is why my wife is trying to take my phone from me at times. But cryptocurrency
Brian is
is
definitely the cause of the market going down for a little bit.
that's right.
Definitely
There
a villain in the market.
there has been a bit of a bear market in the crypto space, but yeah, there's a lot there, and it's pretty fascinating. I've really been trying to get into that, but so much more to learn. And but yeah, crypto business. It's just I'm looking forward to the variety, and I know that you guys will. Oh, look at that! That's the cold storage.
Hmm.
There we go. See, I'm
Amy's like,
picking it up.
what in the hell is this USB device? The reality is that if someone has something like this, this is a cold storage device, and this could have $100. This could have $1 million. This could have $10 million. Literally, this is what people that are out there who are crypto millionaires, etc. Everything is hidden there. So the keys, there's not money here. It's the keys. Everything is on the blockchain. But literally, in said device, the question is, how much money is in there? And depending on who you ask, it may be a lot. So for sure, that's something that we'll definitely be sharing and talking about. So if you look at Brian's ledger, his cold storage, hence it's cold because it's not connected. So there's no way to hack this because guess what? It's right here. I have it in my hand. You can't touch it. Brian's, on the other hand, his definitely is crazy. We got my sister here. Definitely want to give her a shout out. Passenger Shaming
Yeah,
is up in the house. SK
SK.
from Clubhouse. If
Oh,
you guys have
nice.
not,
Hey.
so back to
Oh
the
man, she
gratitude
was.
piece.
Yeah, they were
Uh,
funny.
SK missed me saying pretty much fuck the system and fuck the algorithm, but so it's
Yes.
funny. SK had put a show forward as well, and I love it because I can't do the inflection she did, but it was just like, "Are you tripping?" So are you tripping? And she's has been in the airline industry. She's a first responder, police officer, all these different things, and her show really kind of looked at the travel side of the house and so many different things there. So it's like, are you tripping? And moral of the story, a great connection. We were in a room and Clubhouse, and it's like, how did we not know each other? Because again, I was in counterterrorism, I was an air marshal, I traveled, I did all those things, and she was a flight attendant and worked in that space. So we've crossed paths in some shape, fashion, or form. If you guys go on Instagram, look at passenger shaming. Give her a like and follow. She only has a few followers. It's not too many, so
Yeah,
let's not get
just
too
a couple.
crazy.
She's a startup.
She's starting up her page, so we want to basically make a point to support what they're doing over there. So if you guys get a chance to do that, definitely head on over to Passenger Shaming. She only has 1.3 million followers. Nothing to, she's just a startup, right?
Yep, just a startup. Yep, she'll
um,
get
She's
there.
funny.
yeah.
She's funny. I sat in her room last weekend. Man,
She's,
they were so
she
funny.
said,
And it was
I am
so
a noob.
casual. It
And
was
again,
like
full
the most.
disclosure for what SK is doing on this page, passenger shaming is not putting down passengers. No, it's more the satire of the things you see in the travel side, the stories that like literally me and SK can do a whole show on the ridiculousness we've seen in the travel industry. So really looking at like window wars, things that you see that happen, the messiness. Like this bag here, I don't think you guys
Oh
want to know
no.
what is in the bag, but definitely there's something there, right? So just the ridiculousness that you see traveling, people submit things. It's a great page. If you want to have a laugh, definitely take a look at it because I tell you, there are things
It's
like somebody
hilarious.
here is pussing out of his leg and is going on the floor.
Oh.
Yeah, you think it's fine to be barefooted. Literally, it's just, hey, well, this one, of
Oh
course,
my
there,
goodness.
this is
Oh
the
my
only good. This you can't fight this. Come on now, seriously.
God.
You
Oh
know,
my gosh.
if you encounter one of these things, you just go ahead and let it happen. Here we have an instance of a naked man just basically walking through LAX. This is literally some of the things that may be out there. So if you don't
Oh my
know
gosh.
passenger shaming, take a look at it. Great page, great information. Um, so definitely wanted to give her a shout out and what they're doing on her side of the house. So again, she said it's a noob. She did say for sure she'll take the 1 million. Please, you have 1 million followers. There you go. You got it. You're done.
You're done.
um,
You made it.
Terry said, "I'd love to know more about crypto." Yep, that's definitely something that we're going to be discussing and talking about and breaking it down in sections as well. So we'll do some specific videos for that you'll see on the page, and we'll do some lives and talk and bring some people who
Sure.
are specialists also in that realm. So, but SK as well, like I said, she has a great show on her. Um, Page and as well in Clubhouse. They have a great show and they do amazing things and share stuff there. So we were not of the select few that moved on to be selected, but we made some great connections, right? So there's a positive there. But we definitely are gonna talk
Yes.
about what we want to talk about, how we want to talk about it, and guess what? Fuck the algorithm. So that's that. She also did say thanks for the shout out. I'm a big fan. Love you guys. All that
Yes.
love is for me only, Amy, not for you. You don't
I
get
know.
that.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna go to my closing thoughts
Oh,
now,
wait a
but
second. No, no, wait a second. No,
oh
Jerry.
my
No,
gosh.
Jerry. Sweet
Jerry,
Jesus. Jerry, no, you cannot also be
Jerry.
into crypto, Jerry. What
he's
haven't you done? Jesus
he's going to
Christ.
dominate the crypto space here and
Jerry
just give
is
him.
Satoshi Nakamoto. Oh my God.
Uh,
Good
He
for you,
invented Bitcoin.
Jerry. Jerry's like one of our yes, Jerry's the best. We love Jerry.
Jerry is definitely one of ours, but it's funny. He's like crypto, yes. Jerry, look, I'm scared to talk about crypto with you. Who
I
knows?
know, right? So, yes.
Indeed.
The thing, so I after I before they announced who made it or who didn't, I just happened to jump in one of her rooms, and I was laughing so hard. I'm not gonna name the name of a group that did win. That was not funny at all. I didn't think there was a lot of forced laughing. Yes, there was a lot of that. I was actually I was appalled by the show, and that it takes a lot for me to be appalled by something. But passenger shaming was hilarious. And I sat in her room and there was just a couple people in their room and they were having this casual conversation, but it was so funny. And sometimes, sometimes things are so heavy and you just need that like time to do nothing but listen and to laugh. Um, no.
Like there was one show. Come on now, there was one show for
Oh
crying out
my
loud, which was
god. It
Bibbidi
was
Bop, which was the Disney
unbelievable.
after hour freaking like taboo stuff. I thought that was a shoe in. Amanda, who does the sustainable living, the
Yes.
salty vagabond. You'll see her one day soon. Amanda is a veteran. She started on Clubhouse, the Salty Vagabond crew, and they do sustainable living. Amanda, I just talked to her yesterday actually. So it's funny, like the best thing you could do when you're in a slump and you're not feeling good because I was pissed the fuck off about the situation, you know what I mean, is call other people who are as miserable as you. So I literally
Yeah.
talked to SK and I was like, so how are you doing? And she's like, this is bullshit. I'm like, yes, I'm not alone. And you know
Well, and
what?
that's
We got out the
yes.
system.
It
So I
it
talked
comes
to S.
down to
Well, I was
I
gonna
feel
say
like it
to you go.
you go, it's your show.
No, you go.
I was gonna say it almost makes me feel like it's political. The people that got picked up, like sex, two sex shows, drugs, like that kind of stuff is selling. What is happening? And my thing is too, out of all of that, there was not one veteran show. And I'm just going to put that out there that of all the shows that they had, there was not one veteran show. I think they got it wrong
I,
on a lot of people, and I'd like to see how they went
Veterans,
about.
sex workers.
I
It's
apologize.
yes.
Honestly, I really feel like it was my fault for us missing the boat because I was not willing to show my full
Your show.
shoulder.
Well,
Yeah.
there's that too.
So
You didn't take the picture and post the pic. Yeah, I think
I'm
that
just
they
too
definitely got it
modest.
wrong.
I'm too, I just can't, there's certain levels of
You
things
got
I
to show
just,
some nip.
Yes. And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
and honestly that's how I feel. I feel like as many veterans as we have, as much as we have to bring, and so do so many other people. I could not believe that they did not pick up one veteran show, and that just boggles my mind. So I go back to like, this is this has been a tough week. It's been a tough couple weeks, and I just want to say that, to all of our fans and all of our followers, thank you so much. We know that you're there to support us. But we're veterans too, and we go through some tough times too, and we go through some tough weeks. And I know for me personally, I've had a heck of a couple weeks with some personal stuff, as we all do. And sometimes it's okay not to be okay. And sometimes people just need some time and need some space to, people are in such a hurry to be like, oh, it's fine, get over it, or it's going to be fine. So what? Move on to the next thing. But sometimes you just need to sit in it. Sometimes you just need to sit in it. You need to think about it. You need to be upset about it. You need to be able to be hurt about it and disappointed. And I feel like that's okay. And, it's okay not to be okay. Like what DP was saying earlier, and that, maybe it's not something that you have to say to somebody. Sometimes it's just not saying anything at all. But I think sometimes it's okay just to sit in that, like, life is sucking right now really bad and nothing seems to be picking us up, and that's okay. Today I was at breakfast with my boyfriend, and the whole week I've just been in a mood, and I haven't been myself, and he knew that, and it felt like everything was going wrong. And right as I was saying everything is going wrong, I spilt the water on the table, and I was like, you know what, I'm just done. And sometimes that happens, and I think it's okay to just be not okay for a little bit and then have a pick me up. But sometimes it's just us that has to do the pick me up, and it's not somebody else, and it doesn't, so it's not somebody else's responsibility. But at still, remember to check on your strong friends like DP did, and called Amanda and like, hey, what's up? Or, whatever. And just be able to talk about that. And even though it might be a little bit of negative banter, it kind of makes you feel like, okay, I'm justified to feel the way that I feel because
Hmm.
they got this wrong. And I think that that's important. Obviously, we're warriors, we're survivors, we're going to come back around. Here we are. We're going to continue to be here every Friday, and we're going to continue to do amazing things for the veteran community. Yes. But one thing I have to say is,
That's
and
good
I
print
sent
work.
this video to DP. If I don't know if you can bring it up and play it, DP, but one thing I do have to say that I'd be remiss is that I am extremely proud of my son. He graduated from high school, and it was a huge moment. And through all of the things, and of course, everybody on Veteran Network has become a huge part of my family, along with my kids' family. So to them, their family. And so I want to say that, in the bad, there was something huge and amazing, and Quincy graduated. I'm so proud of him. If you know Quincy, he definitely left with a bang. He did something a little unorthodox. If DP can bring it up, you can see
Hmm.
it. But when I was watching, I was half crying, and I was a little prepared because his aunt said, "Oh my God, Quincy just said start recording before he gets to the microphone." And so as I'm recording, my heart is beating so fast, and I'm like, what is he gonna do? Because he's so unpredictable. But if DB could do that, and then I would just leave with, remember to check on your strong friends, but also remember to give them grace too. And sometimes they need space, and we need to Everybody handles things differently, and even if somebody doesn't handle it the way that we would have handled it, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. So to give them space, the heaviest thing to pick up is a phone, and Samsungs are heavier.
And
So
also this amazingly embroidered brick. Yes, this is a brick.
yes.
And sometimes you just have to just have a fuck your brick. I'm not gonna throw
Yes.
it at anybody, but trust me, the thought may have come up. So there's that part. FG Apparel, they're actually able to do things on some bricks. The amazing things you
I
can
like
do.
that. I like
So
that.
there's that part there, and actually did this
Yes.
amazing artwork of our team
Yes,
that came
yes, of
together.
our
So
team. That's
that was this is
awesome.
on metal, like the
That's
amount
Yeah.
on
of
metal.
detail on this
I
stuff.
got one too.
I'm
Yeah,
telling
it's
you, it
awesome.
is amazing. And then they also did this little here water bottle, which is
Yes.
pretty awesome. And then
And
this amazing thing.
our shirts are,
Yep.
and I have to say, I wore red. Many people that know me and know my story, red is a trigger. And going through the week with clients that I've had, I encourage them to push through and to work through things. And so today, after everything that was going on, I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear my red shirt.
And I was like, fuck it,
Um,
me too.
yes. and if you're and of course the DP Bear has helped me through these tough weeks. DP Bear, so DP Bear will be available shortly in the swag store. Everybody needs one. So
I have
and if
no I have no clue how this became a thing, but Jesus Christ,
yeah,
here we are.
but it is a thing. So
This is a thing, and there's gonna be a legend one apparently.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So there's
Got to have the
that.
pair.
Thank you all.
Well,
Thank
let's
you
go ahead and
all.
play
And
this here though, real quickly.
yes, this is my.
Mama made it!
Yeah.
Quincy, Neil, Katsumi, Lacy, Williams.
Thank you!
Yeah.
Quincy is not a bashful guy.
The best part is everyone just gets called up. She's like, "Crap! I just walked up and got my shit and walked away." He made a point to just jump in there. Like this is the part
And
where you
if
wait for him
you
to call you. He's like,
if you
"Screw
can
that! I'm
do
gonna walk right into the microphone." Thank you. Hold on.
Mama made it!
Look at it.
Yeah.
Look at the hand movement of the lady. She's like, "Oh no, sir, no." Look, she's like, "Crap."
But then look at the people.
Too slow.
They're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that!" And some of the admin were laughing.
Yeah, because
But
this is the
if you
part where
look
he
at-
walks up. She reads the name as he gets on stage. Negative. I'm gonna take this mic real quick here. Do my shout out. I've been stuck in this damn high school for 4 years. You're gonna listen to me,
Exactly.
and then now you can call my name. So that's the whole part. This is the part where they actually call the name.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Quincy, Neil, Katsumi, Lacy, Williams.
Yeah.
And then there you go. Shout out that way. She's like, "Crap! I did not make a point to do my speech."
You know that there's so many kids there that are thinking, "Dang it! I wish I would have thought of that."
Mhm.
Well, then later there was somebody that took the microphone and said their name, and they got escorted off the field. And I thought, oh my gosh, did they get in trouble because they did what Quincy did or whatever? Well, come to
What they
find
gonna
out,
do?
the
Gonna let you
guy
graduate?
yeah, he didn't. He snuck in somehow, and he even put like the color valedictoria thing on. He snuck in somehow between people, took the mic, and said his name, and he wasn't graduated.
Well,
He
look,
didn't meet
sometimes
the
you gotta
criteria.
celebrate yourself, and nobody's gonna celebrate you. And that's very similar to what Elliot's doing here. Apparently, Samsungs are just better. See, no one's acknowledging the Samsung situation, so
Samsungs are not better, Elliot.
he's
And shout out to Elliot. He's been getting some publicity. He just did a Dodgers game, I believe.
Mhm.
Yes. So
and our one-on-one just aired as well on YouTube. So
Yeah,
on my-
that just
definitely
went
check
on
that
Wednesday.
out.
hmm
Yep, you can go and watch that. It was a good one.
Shaky says, "Proud of you,
Oh,
Amy, for
thank
wearing
you.
red."
Thank you. Thank you.
SK says, "All on that," and then I think she's definitely talking about the brick, not Quincy's graduation on this one. I know a window. I want to throw that brick through. I need to buy one. Ironically, this is actually something that is going to go up as well. So specifically
awesome.
to what FG Apparel is doing. For those that don't know, our swag shop is powered by FG Apparel. You can find them as well online
Yes.
over on Instagram and different places.
This
So,
shirt, I don't know if you get this shirt is
hmm
from them. This
hmm
cup is from them,
but look at
actually.
this here though. For those people, just to show you, because
This
Rana's.
this cup
But look at this. This is a
from them.
tile. That's
Yeah,
not
that's
this messed up.
incredible.
But look at
They
this.
made graduation things for Quincy.
They did
Oh, cool.
exact. Yep. Look at this tile.
And I have to say too, shout out to them for making they made this banner, this huge banner for Quincy's graduation. It was amazing. Yes, it really was. They do amazing things there.
This is a tile, and if anyone remembers, this is literally the first stage of Super Mario
Yeah.
Brothers. The entire first stage. It's a whole tile thing.
That is awesome.
Literally, they just printed the Super Mario first stage on tiles.
That's
Can,
funny.
And then
can you imagine that being on your backsplash?
This is
Putting that somewhere.
this is probably the more
That's
tasteful,
nice.
bricks that were done. I tend to prefer the fuck you one, by the way. But that's some of the things that they can do there. So just really showing some of the amazing things that they're doing on their side. Also looking at some of the art that they're putting together. So these are all pieces and things that they're going to be showcasing as well. So they're kind of building up some of that. So check them out over at FG Apparel on Instagram, and you'll see some of the amazing things that are being created. Again, swag, shirts, all these different things that are happening in-house. They literally do all of this, which is amazing. And again, the brick part to me is amazing. What they're doing for Project Steel and supporting them. So this is like the before and then the after. And
Yeah, they
just
can
seeing
print on anything, and it
literally
looks good.
on anything. You got tiles, shirts, all kinds of. Look at this embroidery. Like this is literally them doing this for Project Steel. So the after project you see there, and you can see them, either also showcasing kind of how that all comes together. So if you want to find out how they actually do patches,
Amazing.
this is literally them showing some of that. So it's some pretty amazing things that they have going on there. So definitely check them out. You will have to drag Ronis to come in here, but he's definitely doing some
Yeah.
pretty cool stuff.
Yes.
But Amy was showing, like I said, some of the stuff they did for Quincy's graduation on some of the cups and things like that, which I think are cool.
Yes.
And of course, the
It's
fucking brick.
amazing. They actually did t-shirts for all of Quincy's family too. They did a huge order from us. Um yeah, they're on top of it. And they're quick. They're quick. I mean, they
Mhm.
can get it to you. I think I was like, "Is it too late to put in an order?" And they're like, no." And I think they got it done in 2 days. They overnighted it to me. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, they're awesome. They're really good at what they do.
SK
And
says awesome and congrats to Quincy. Terry
yes, and
said
so
he says F you, I'm doing this.
yes, exactly. I couldn't believe he did it. I couldn't believe he
Shaky
did it. I
says
mean, I
it's
can
the finger pointing for me on the
for
brick.
me. Yes. Thank you, Frank. And Frank, yes, reach out to me. Yes, he did. He definitely stood out from the rest. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the only shout out that
Aw.
Elliot's gonna give to an iPhone user, so we're gonna have to take a
Oh,
screenshot
wow.
of this. So there's that part. SK
Yeah.
says that's some crazy good stuff. Yeah, that's swag shop. Like I said, they our entire swag shop over at Veterans Network .club, they're the ones supporting that. So like I said, even this stuff that we have here, that was all them. They took care of all these different things that we did for the pilots. So we had our swag bundles and all that. Swag shop again, they're the ones that kind of put all this together. So pretty amazing things available there. So you guys can check out some of the things that they do. But definitely, like I said, this shirt was designed by Maria and
Man,
Joe
they
Aver.
can do
So
anything. We gave them this shirt. Maria and TMR did this shirt like on a Tuesday.
mhm,
They overnighted them all to us for us to have them by Friday. They're just
mhm,
they're amazing. And Jay,
Actually,
shout
we
out to
got it on
Jay.
Thursday.
Yeah, we
mhm,
did actually. Shout out to Jay for his designs on there too.
mhm.
Um,
Yep,
he
this
does a lot of the designs.
disabled and
Yep.
I trainer shirt. That was
Hmm.
Jay's design, who we just saw tuning in from Jamaica. So these are some of the different designs that he's kind of
Yep.
put together. And even if you're not a veteran, we also do have shirts for those folks that are not veterans who support.
Hmm.
So We have one here for those supporting as well, veterans in that space. So some cool stuff that we have there on the site at veteransnetwork.club, but showcasing some
Yeah.
of the amazing things that they are doing there for sure over at FG Apparel. So they are the ones fueling the swag shop.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
It is really good stuff.
Let's see here. As Shaky saying, "Oh my God, Mario." Yep,
Yes.
that Mario came super later. Mario Brothers. Are
Yeah.
they veteran? Yeah, they are. So Ron is
Yep.
veteran run as well. Minority and veteran run. So that's also everything in the whole space is also veteran run as well. So they're more business to business. So they deal with a variety of different. Let's see.
They can even wrap a car.
Yeah, pretty much.
They can do anything. It's amazing.
Let's see. Elliot's the handsome singing man from a few weeks ago. Uh, yes, that is him.
Yes. He came. Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Let's see here. What is Frank sending me? Let's see. Over to Brian. It's, oh, well, this is
Yeah,
the flick for the car. Okay, I'll bring that up here. Over to you, Brian.
he sent you the link. So yeah, uh, yeah, it has been a pretty crazy couple of weeks. And like DP said, it was, man, when you get the news, I don't know, so many emotions that go through it. But the reality is that you put your heart and soul into it, and everyone in the audience, all I mean, you've all have dedicated yourselves to certain initiatives that you focused on, whether it be personal, professional, whatever the case may be. So no difference for us. We poured it all, we put it all in, and
yeah,
so
we did.
we're proud of what was produced. And
Hmm.
so no regrets from that standpoint. And
Right.
at this point now, it's just a matter of, like I said, I'm really truly pretty excited about the variety of things that we're moving into. And DP's made this comment before. We talked about, and things happen for a reason. And so just that's one of those mantras, I guess. I'm repeating to myself, to as a coping mechanism as much as anything. But the reality is that the things that are coming are going to be good. So one setback does not sink the ship. So
Yes.
so other things that we can focus on that we enjoy doing, and we think that you'll benefit and enjoy as well. So it's just exciting times. And the great thing is it's we're still doing that with our current family here, and that's it's all good
And
stuff.
I also think, to Brian's point, so I know my dad always says, I know you never listen to me. He always tells me that. I know you guys never listen to me. I know you never listen to anything we say. I do actually listen to him. Um, he told us something a long time ago, and I think DP can kind of get where I'm going with this because he did an interview with Quincy. But when we were growing up, integrity was a big thing with my dad. And my dad, I remember when my brother was going through the divorce with his first divorce, and he was talking about how, you know, this is so hard. Dad always tells us, do the right thing and everything will work out, but nothing is working out. Everything is going against me. I'm doing the right thing. I'm trying to have integrity and do the right thing. And he was feeling frustrated, and he was like, I'm trying to remember dad's words as we were growing up, and things that he had went through and things that he had showed us. And so through some of these times, especially these last couple weeks, I've thought a lot about that, just with personal and professional, with the whole pilot thing, and then just stuff that I have going on too, and thinking about coming back to there's so much I could do. There's so much that I could say. But remembering what my dad said of, if you do the right thing, you're true to yourself, you do the right thing, everything is going to work out. It's not going to work out on our time always, but everything is going to work out. And I really truly believe that it hasn't steered me wrong yet. And so when I think about things that happen, especially the Clubhouse pilot, it didn't work out for us, but maybe it wasn't meant for it to work out for us. And there's something bigger and better for us. And so I would just say to everybody, when you get in those ruts, just remember that if you do the right thing, then I truly believe in the end, good things will come to you. Not when you want them to, maybe not when you wish that they would, but eventually it pays off. And so one thing with Quincy, when DP did the interview, I was so scared to watch that interview, by the way, DP. I was like, I don't know what he's going to say about me. And the one thing that I will say with my dad, and my mom too, but she always did it in her own way, in a little bit different way. But my dad was very intentional about talking about integrity all the time. And so when DP asked him, what are two things that your mom would say, it was like one of the proudest moments when Quincy said integrity, that she's always talked about integrity. And I think that that is so important, and that, yes, absolutely shaky. When one door closes, another door opens. And as long as we stay true to ourselves, and we're going to, good things are going to come, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to do something bigger than maybe Clubhouse was ever meant to be for us.
I'm grateful for the internet because I don't have to punch somebody in the fucking throat. So there's that part.
DP!
So there's that part there. And as that door closes and the other one opens, on the way out, I'm gonna throw this brick through the old fucking door, and they can go
No,
ahead
you're
and repair
not.
that shit. So there's that part.
DP, just hug your bear.
Oh man, we need to have a.
I literally ripped that.
Yeah, don't.
head off.
He
Hug
might.
the
He might
bear.
not be in a place where he needs to touch that bear right now. But need.
It's a multi-use bear.
I'm thinking. I'm thinking we need to have an
No.
office space moment. We
DP
need to,
never gets
maybe
mad.
take some things out into the field and maybe use the brick.
Yes,
Karma is
absolutely.
no,
Absolutely.
but yeah, obviously, I think that there's something to be said to just, like we said earlier, right? The common theme here is honor your feelings. If what I feel is to say fuck the system, then fuck the system. Like, I mean, this whole concept of we have to boil on the side, we have to be politically correct. A big fat fuck you. I don't care. This is my truth. It's how I feel. You know what I mean? Like, it's a time and place to do that. And if you don't have a mechanism or a place to do that, then that's a problem. Because then you boil things and suppress things, and the reality is that those things can manifest into other areas or cause other issues because you're bottling things up, for no reason. So it's good to kind of let energy out because you have to let it go at some point, right? And then you move on and look at other things. Look at the reality is SK, right? I would not have met her had it not been, because of Clubhouse. Hell, we wouldn't have met a lot of people had it not been through Clubhouse. So it's not a negative thing. It's just what were those extra connections, right? We met Frank and Ellie and all these people through all these other mechanisms. But the reality is now you add SK and other people into the mix that we've met. And SK actually sent me a message, kind of saying, hey, do you want to host a room together? We could talk about things that we've done. My reply is, fuck yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, we're going to continue doing what we do one way or the other. But I would definitely say honor how you're feeling and let that moment pass. Because the sad part is if you have the ability, especially as someone, as a veteran or someone who's just dealt with anything in life, we're all bottling things up. And like a pressure cooker, those things may not lead to good decisions and good actions. Because the one thing about bottling things up is you may let out that energy to the wrong people who don't deserve it. And they become a scapegoat. It's like, all the frustration, all the pain, all the rejection, all the things you're dealing with, now you're taking it out on that person who cut you off. It's not that they cut you off. It's that you're just now letting all that energy out at the wrong time in the wrong place. So whether it be, arts or martial arts or the gym or whatever, or just go into a room or get in your car and punch a steering wheel, let those things be real, honor the moment, sit in that pain, and then eventually, reset going forward. Um, because I think it's just we've been indoctrinated into this whole, don't do this, don't do that. Stop. Do what you want to do for a
Yeah.
second and do it in a safe space. And again, if that means you get together with some people you care about, or you have the ability to jump into one of these rooms or be in a moment like this, then say, yeah, fuck this, fuck that. Get it out your system. And once that's said and done, then reset, recalculate, and move forward. So definitely honor your reality, whatever it may be, right? Because you have to be smart and calculated, but that doesn't mean you have to always walk on eggshells. Or if you need to buy a brick with a nice little logo on it of a middle finger, we have
FG
those too.
Apparel.
FG Apparel, you know what I mean? So let's see here. So Shaky knows what I'm talking about here. Um, so the comments are the best parts. Um, so SK says definitely something bigger, better. Also, when you're doing everything so well above the board, and of course the best part is here. I'm not changing shit about me. Yeah. Um, Shaky is saying, break some dishes. Sometimes you got to break some dishes because guess what? It's better to break some dishes than to pull somebody over on a highway and go freaking ballistic on them and then you wind up in jail because that's not a good call to make. Terry said, who had the popcorn? SK says, no one can tell you how to feel. And that is a true statement. You know what I mean? Honor those realities. Let's see here. Shaky says, society teaches anger is bad or wrong and that we should never feel that way. And then you bottle it and bottle it and bottle it. And then one day it is not a good thing because even the most quiet person can lose their cool and go to a place of negativity that's just suppress things bottled up. So definitely. Let me see. Sometimes I feel like Chernobyl, and sometimes it can feel like Chernobyl, and you have to have a plan. And whatever those moments or plans may be to be able to let some of that out, you know, explore, find things. You know what I mean? Hell, I heard Amy does kickboxing, so there's that part. Um, Frank said, embrace the fuck. There you go.
Oh my
And that is
goodness.
not a typo. And our gain passenger shaming, indeed. To Frank's point, he did share this link that I thought was pretty cool. So this is the vehicle flick. So if you look at this part here, let me zoom in. You have the ability to change the flicker. So a little hand says stop, and then when you flick it, it can go right to the middle finger. Boot, doot, 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 doot. So that's pretty dope. So that is literally the vehicle flick that you could put in the back of your car, and then as you are driving, you have the ability to give someone either the hand or the flick.
Nice. Well, and I like that concept because not only can you use it for that on the back, but when he's mounting that on, I'm just thinking about I've always
Oh
wanted
my
these
god.
I've always wanted a rocket launcher on the front, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking kind of along those lines,
Yeah.
putting a button for launch.
Yeah, so there's some cool stuff there. So yeah, flick.me, FLIK.me. Not sponsored by them, but I can get down with what they're putting down. So there's that part. Let's see here. Alrighty.
Tell SK. Oh, are you wrapping it up?
What am I saying? Well, you can tell she could hear you now. Crazy concept.
I was gonna tell her to read her messages. She should jump in here with us.
Oh, well, when you have 1,000 million followers,
I know.
you're
We might
lost in the
not be.
messages. SK, check your message. I think you got a message from Amy.
SK, check your Instagram message.
SK says, as a former cop, I would not recommend going to jail. Yes, I would definitely not recommend going to jail, especially in Tijuana. Don't take the strive to Tijuana and lose your mind. Don't need that. Let's see here.
DP, is there something you're not telling us about Tijuana?
I've heard some stories, apparently. I've actually never been to Tijuana. It's probably a good thing. Jakey says, I need 25 of those so I don't have to waste my breath. Frank says, you are welcome. Let's see.
I'm waiting for
SK says, how many people will be shot using that flick? That is a good question.
I was thinking the same thing.
Road rage.
But I think Amy sent you a message, SK.
Yes.
Let's see. True that passenger shaming. I'm a Afro Latina and don't want to get stopped by the police. So that's a whole different conversation of PTSD in and of itself. So there's that part. Um, when when you operate at the level that SK operates, like I said, she has to filter through
I
like a
know.
million messages. I have a direct contact, so she can't be your friend. Just for the record.
I know that's big time.
Well, you know what? Look, it's we come from a common bond. But yet, Amanda is another person that we'll bring on too. So Amanda, I talked to her yesterday. She started the Salty Vagabond crew. She literally lives on a boat, and she is currently house sitting in a like a $1 to $2 million house. Just house sitting. Like literally, they're just house sitting in this
Wow.
mansion, and it's like a whole thing they do. She's living there for 2 weeks, and then they're back on the boat. And I'm like, what life is this? This whole sustainable living, people living in vans and RVs and boats, and just out there in the world, not
Do you
tied
think
to a zip code.
you could do
That's just
that?
Say
fascinating.
again?
Do you think you could do that?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Hell to the
Or
no.
Brian.
Nah.
Do you think you guys could do that? Just live out of a van or a boat?
No,
Like, just
no,
get rid
no.
of all the things?
No, I will say some of those RVs are pretty sweet, but I'm not into that. That's not appealing to me, but maybe somebody else.
Mm,
I don't know. But
yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah. Um, actually, we have who is it? Heath lives in his boat. Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Heath has a houseboat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's in the boat, so it's a thing. I think it's amazing. I mean, it's interesting just to hear half of that stuff that people are actually doing. Let's see here.
SK said she would love to, and she's 100% in for the future, but she just flew in from Palm Beach.
She
So
was actually in
she
Jersey. I
is,
think she was
yeah,
there
so
a few
she's
days ago.
traveling.
So yeah, we're definitely gonna
Yeah.
reel her in for
Yeah,
sure.
we'll have to do her. And Amanda. Yeah, that would be a good
SK,
one.
don't reply to all the messages from Amy. You're my friend. So there's that part.
She's not your friend.
Not your friend. Hashtag.
He gets very possessive about his friends.
Seriously, I only keep a few of them around, so there's
So,
that part. And the jury's still out on some others. Let's see. Shaky says, "What houseboats are interesting and beautiful?" Yeah, I'll tell you, they live on a boat, and now they're house sitting in an actual house, and it's like a whole trusted traveler house sitting thing. It's crazy.
I'll have to admit, watching Dirty Harry, I have to admit that the houseboat thing. That's my first recollection of houseboat settings. That I always thought that was pretty interesting.
I agree. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do it.
First of all, just to get something straight, I don't know what kind of daggone freaking process SK is going through here because I've just sat here in the corner looking at the wall, punching bricks, working through issues, and SK is living her best life. She literally just flew from New York City and now she's in Florida. Jesus Christ. Talk about living your best life.
I
There
mean,
you
did
go.
they say she had 1.3 million followers?
Look, when you're hot out there, I guess, and in demand, you got to make the moves and shake some hands and get some babies and do some stuff. But no, it's cool that she's getting around and traveling and doing some cool
Yeah,
stuff
it
there.
is.
So yeah, she's on the road, so that's pretty dope.
Cool.
I should go to Florida. But
Yeah.
that pretty much is a wrap for the evening. So we appreciate, obviously, everyone tuning in, joining us. More to follow. Great people coming. People like SK were passenger shaming. Great stories
Yes.
to be had. We'll host a room and talk about that and probably beam it both here and into Clubhouse as well. For clarifications, SK says, I am here to hug my mom for the first time in 16 months.
That's
Is
awesome.
amazeballs. So I do remember you put that on your live. So that is cool that people are actually able to get out again and do stuff and see family that you haven't been able to see, regardless of where you sit on the political spectrum. The fact is, people being able to see family again, despite the shutdown. Some folks have been waiting a while, so it's good to see people getting back to doing some of that. So that's awesome. So definitely
Yeah.
hug her tight, hug her hard, and hug her long. That is amazing. Shaky says, SK, have fun in Florida.
Yes.
How long are you down in Florida? Where in Florida you at? I'll message you. I'm literally going to Florida in like 2 weeks. So there's that
Me
part.
too.
Are you?
Yeah, I think the 18th is my granddaughter's high school graduation, and then the next day, the 19th or the 20th, we're driving down.
So where in Florida are you guys going to?
Uh, s- uh, it's a town I hadn't heard of. It's up in the Destin Fort Walton Beach area. It's not any further south. If you get to Palm Beach,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm sorry, Tampa Bay, because that's on the west side
Mm-hmm.
of then you've gone too far. But
Yeah. I think we're going
it's
to
somewhere in between there.
Orlando, somewhere around Orlando.
Okay,
So yeah, we'll be there for quite a while, a few days. So yeah, our Palm Beach for SK. We're going to Orlando.
cool.
Brian is going to a special undisclosed location. Don't ask no questions. Probably Cape
Yeah,
Canaveral.
I just drive. Tell me where to go.
I think we should do a work meetup and meet SK there too, and BP and Brian.
Amy just wants an excuse to get out of the house and go do something.
Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, fun stuff to come for sure. But that is a wrap. More to follow. We will be back. Stay tuned. Thanks
Yes.
for joining us. Share it, watch it. If you missed something, go back and catch some of the stuff that we talked about in the beginning. For sure. Oh, this is actually pretty cool. SK says you got to meet a ton of Clubhouse peeps in New York City. There are a lot of people in New York.
Yeah.
Oh,
Clubhouse.
wow. Hold on.
Big
I
time.
think she was talking about there was a guy that was going to fly in. I think he was from another country, and I think he was talking about meeting up with her. And they were talking about a dress and what kind of dress she was going to wear.
Like a secret,
Yeah.
code note.
No,
Alright.
it was a really funny conversation actually. It was very laid back and very natural, and yeah.
Frank's going to Napa.
I've been to Napa once. Got to take the wine train. This a couple of decades ago, but that's
Jerry
nice.
said, "Hey,
Nice
for a
area
great
there.
evening, come on down to Texas."
There we go, Jerry.
All right,
Where in
Jerry.
Texas are you at, Jerry? Let's see. Shaky says Florida's a different type of human breed. It must be the drinking water that turns them into Florida man. Oh, sweet Lord, that is amazing. But yeah, so that pretty much kind of puts us into Napa is definitely fab. But a great evening for sure as we wrap it up. So we appreciate all the amazing people. We got Jerry in the house who hung out with us. We got Frank,
Appreciate
of
you
course.
guys.
Check out his CREs for a chance to win 20K. Is what he's doing in Napa. So definitely check out Crayons.
All the best to you on that, Frank.
Yeah. Yeah, so amazing stuff. Willie, thanks for hanging out with us. Justina, thank you for popping in.
Yes, Justina.
We had the whole crew. Paul was in the house hanging out with us. Roger was in the house hanging out with us. Elliot was in the house. A bunch of amazing folks. We had Jesse from Jamaica. Paul was here. We had Warren. We appreciate you guys, and we will be back soon.